Chapter 1 Historical Changes Caused by Meteorites. Or, Young Master. Young Master Chen Shi vaguely heard someone chirping crookedly in his ear. The head was so heavy, Chen Shi opened his eyes with difficulty. If he had known, he shouldn't have drunk so much wine. 3 days have passed. Chen Shi finally figured out the current form, the era of the Three Kingdoms in a broad sense. The Yellow Turban Rebellion has just been extinguished, an era of heroes, and it is also the era when Chen Shi himself was bored and had all kinds of fantasies. After all, whether it is the white horse and silver spear Zhao Zilong or the wisdom incarnation Zhuge Kongming, the pink and black of the later generations are infinite. There is no way that there are many Chinese, so I can only say so. His current identity is a branch of the Chen family in Yingchuan, which is a little related, but almost no one will pay attention to the family, and there is only a maid who takes care of him and an old housekeeper in the family, which belongs to the typical type of one person who eats enough and the whole family is not hungry. Seeing that the housekeeper couldn't pour a sword dance of water, Chen Shi really didn't know what expression to use. Could it be that the people of this era were so strong? Could it be that the historical records were correct? The quality of the ancients was completely exploded in the 10 streets of modern people. Is it possible? Anyway, Chen Shi didn't believe it. Young Master Chen has been better recently. An old man dressed as a doctor poked his head in and asked with a smile. It's already a lot better. Chen Shi hurriedly bowed. To be honest, as far as he knew, a headache and brain fever in this era could be fatal, and it was not easy for this old man to pull him back for a serious illness like his before. The complexion has improved a lot. Young Master Chen still practices more internal breath. The old man smiled and said, "In that case, I won't stay for a long time." "Uncle Chen." Chen Shi turned around and shouted. The housekeeper quickly led a horse and ran over, and the speed was incredible. "Uncle, she saw that you were so anxious to leave. There must be an emergency. This horse was given to the old man as a means of transportation. Please don't dislike it." Chen Shi forced the reins into the other party's hand, and after saying that he didn't know the other party's name for so long, the other party didn't mention his name. The old man looked at Chen Shi, thought for a moment and nodded to accept the thanks. He did have some urgent matters, and having a horse can save a lot of trouble. After all, it is a life-saving grace, if you can repay it first. The doctor's parents' heart is the doctor's business, not my business. It will soon be troubled times. If the old man has an accident, there is no way to repay it in the future. After the old man left, Chen Shi closed the door and prepared to go back to the back room to read. For him there is nothing more important than going back to the house to learn the words of this period, although there is a memory of Chen Shi before, but it is obviously not too complete. Young Master, that horse was a gift brought back from Bingju to the young master when the master was there, so it's not good to give it to someone else. Butler Chen only spoke after Chen Shi closed the door. "It's nothing. I don't need that horse. By the way, bring all the books in the study to my room, and I want to review them again." Chen Shi shook his head and said, he also knew the preciousness of that horse, but compared to the life-saving grace, he felt that it was still worth it, at least in his heart. Chen Shi's family was not poor, on the contrary, it was still a rich family, but later after the death of his father Chen Luo, Chen Shi could not afford to be sick, and spent too much family wealth on medicine and treatment. Coupled with the exclusion within the family, the original rich family has now fallen into despair. However, for Butler Chen, as long as Chen Shi is cured, the Chen family still has hope of rising. Because Chen Shi can't afford to be sick, the vast majority of servants and singers have left, and now a huge Chen family is left with Chen Lan, who is a housekeeper and a singer's part-time maid. Chen Shi is very open to this kind of thing. Just leave, and it is a good thing to leave the two most loyal ones. Since Chen Shi recovered, he hadn't left the door of the Chen family for 3 months, and for such a long time he had mastered everything Chen Shi had learned, such as words, such as piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Of course, the most important of them is spiritual power and formation. After reviewing these things, Chen Shi already understood that this last year of the Eastern Han Dynasty was completely different from the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty in his memory. Maybe the history would be the same, but the world was completely different. Looking through the history of the Chu and Han dynasties, Chen Shi silently wrote down a passage. The siege of Gaixia, Xiang Yu came out alone, defeated Liu Bang's 30,000 elites with one person's strength, and died of exhaustion. Xiang Yu, who could have fled, would rather die in battle than disappoint the children of Jiangdong, and the undefeated overlord. Even if he died, no one dared to approach. Chen Shizai carefully consulted all the historical materials, and finally determined one thing, that is, history had changed in the era of the Chu and Han conflicts 400 years ago. The change at the beginning of the first year of the new year came from a meteorite, that is, the divine stone recorded in historical materials, a divine stone that fell on the land of the Central Plains, and a divine stone that changed the physique of the Central Plains. There were very few people who could cultivate qi to strengthen themselves in the 700 years of the spring and autumn and warring states periods, and there were even fewer people who could temper their spiritual power to resonate with heaven and earth, and that stone caused changes in the entire Central Plains, and everyone's physique underwent earth-shaking changes. Qi can be cultivated almost as long as it is a person, and the difficulty of tempering spiritual power has also become greatly reduced, which has led to the fact that the strength of the military generals in the Chu and Han dynasties has become stronger and stronger, and Xiang Yu is precisely the top of them. If it is an exaggeration in the original history, then it is well deserved in this world. Xiang Yu at his peak can rely on his own strength to pull out a hill, and then throw it out, can beat the air into a liquid state, and the solidified air can hit a hole on the ground like a small missile. In short, it is no longer human. In the following 400 years of the Han dynasty, various schools of martial arts appeared, and the generals who originally relied on their talents to eat during the Chu and Han dynasties gradually and systematically sorted out a path of cultivation, and it was no longer a myth to cut 1,000, but a reality that actually existed. Similarly, the tempering of spiritual power has also appeared in its own schools. The so-called secret spells, Taoism has also appeared, and with the development of the restraint of those top generals, the emergence of formations has greatly exhausted the ability of those top generals to kill. Of course, if it is a straggler, then there is only a dead end. 400 years of development, Qi, and spiritual power can be said to have been popularized, although most people master not good things, but after all, they are qualified to touch these things. That is to say, at the end of the Han dynasty in this world, there were all kinds of farmers who could skim hundreds of pounds of boulders out of more than 10 meters. As for how strong the generals are, it is clearly recorded that Xiang Yu can pull out the mountain and throw it out, so according to the same proportion, Chen Shi thinks that Lu Bu can beat the mountain into gravel with all his might. This is no longer the Three Kingdoms era in history. This is probably the mythical version of the Three Kingdoms era, Chen Shi thought silently. Chapter 2 Division. Or, after 3 months of practice, Chen Shi also almost understood the strangeness of this world, and also understood the wonderful use of spiritual power. Not that he could do anything with strong spiritual power, to be honest. As far as Chen Shi now learned from history, the strong spiritual power was better to defend than expected, and even if it could resonate with heaven and earth in other aspects, it actually did not have much lethality. If you want to kill the opposite side with lightning, you still don't think about it. You can't do it. You can't do it. Although the combat effectiveness is average, it is undeniable that the mental power strengthens the thinking. It can be said that the stronger the mental power, the faster the thinking speed, the more agile the thinking. What could be figured out in an hour, it can be figured out in 10 minutes. The gap is very large. If the existence of Qi greatly increases the combat effectiveness of warriors, then the existence of spiritual power can be said to greatly increase the thinking of wise people, and it is difficult to distinguish which is lighter and which is heavier, but these two different development directions determine the path that everyone will take in the future. Of course, it is undeniable that some people want to cultivate Qi and spiritual power at the same time, and improve their thinking while strengthening their own force, but generally people who do this only have a dead end. It is undeniable that there are indeed people in the world who practice both and have achieved something, but if you want to reach the top, it can be said that it is difficult and difficult. At least as far as Chen Shi knows about the history now, there is none. After learning this, Chen Shi decisively gave up his physical cultivation, and the previous Chen Shi who was angry or something also practiced, but very rarely, but due to the problem of family learning, the exercises were still good after all. Now that Chen Shi has recovered, it is still possible to rely on a little anger to throw a big stone or something. That is to say, if you work hard and fight a few times on the battlefield, it is probably still possible to mix a centurion, and it is estimated that it is impossible to go further. As for reaching the level of Xiang Yu's volley, don't even think about it. It is definitely not the height of human beings. It is estimated that according to the Romance version of the Three Kingdoms records of military generals, the 24 can be achieved. As for Lu Bu or something, Chen Shi feels very emotional when he thinks about it. It is simply a humanoid warhead. Since Chen Shi was a dual cultivator in the past, that is to say, his spiritual power has also been cultivated, but he is almost very weak, so it is estimated that it is a bit difficult to defend against the bows and arrows of children who have not cultivated their breath. Fortunately, the fusion of the two may have stimulated Chen Shi's brain, resulting in Chen Shi's mental power growing continuously in the past 3 months, and this is also a point that Chen Shi is more anxious about. After all, according to his current mental strength, relying on those secret Taoist methods, he can already achieve fog, rain, and defense against bows and arrows. According to the above statement, it can be regarded as entering the room. According to Chen Shi's own statement, he is now at the level of a wide range of thinking as a neurologist. His thinking ability has increased significantly, and his learning ability has continued to rise. Snap. Leaving the book on the desk, Chen Shi finally finished reading all the books at home. The important ones were basically memorized, and the unimportant ones also had a general impression, and the growth of spiritual power also slowed down, and now he can be said to be an authentic Eastern Han Dynasty person. Young master, don't you practice spiritual power? Chen Lan looked at Chen Shi, who was sitting bored under the tree, and asked. There is nothing to repair. Chen Shi smiled bitterly. He only recently learned that after his mental power reached his level, there were no teaching materials to imitate, and the rest was his own perception. Maybe a transformation occurred in an instant. Maybe a lifetime was like this. But even if it was a transformation, it only made the spiritual power purer. less susceptible to distractions from distracting thoughts, and easier to use. Is there anything to repair? Chen Lan asked, puzzled. She didn't understand what this concept was. It's windy. Let's go back. It's going to rain. Chen Shi did not explain, but changed the topic. It rained again. He had fully mastered this so-called secret technique, coupled with the understanding of the formation of rain in later generations. He made it easier than the book said. The scope was larger, and the consumption was smaller. Is the wind blowing? Chen Lan looked up at the sun, and before she could justify it, it was cloudy. Chen Shi smiled and pulled his only maid back to the house. His masterpiece all morning was this rain, covering dozens of miles, and the time when the water vapor in the sky was fully lowered would probably be very long, and it would be very large. It is estimated that no one would guess that this was an artificial spell. After all, Chen Shi only played the role of an introduction in this. What a heavy rain! Chen Lan said in surprise. Yes, it's raining heavily. Chen Shi sighed very much. He had completely mastered the spells recorded in the book. As for the formation, he hadn't figured out the principle until now, and the so-called secret technique, he didn't have any of them. Speaking of which, Chen Shi is quite greedy for secret techniques. After all, in this world, Zhong Jiao relied on the secret art of the Yellow Turban to build hundreds of thousands of unorganized and undisciplined Yellow Turban wrestlers into invincible Yellow Turban wrestlers, and the reason why he lost in the end was also because Zhong Jiao was hung. Otherwise, who lost and who won was really two words. According to what Chen Shi learned, Zhong Jiao has a secret technique that can greatly stimulate a person's combat effectiveness, and it can buff thousands of people at a time, and then thousands of Yellow Turban wrestlers who are not afraid of death are enough to beat the so-called elites of the Han dynasty into dogs, which is enough to see the horror of this move. As for the formation, Chen Shi didn't know anything. After all, he hadn't heard anyone say that anyone would fight the opposing superior forces into dogs or anything so far, but he had also seen it in the book and said that the real formation was powerful enough to reverse the situation of the war. But if he hadn't seen it, he hadn't seen it. Chen Shi could only say that he would talk about it when he met it. As for whether he can meet people who are willing to teach him, Chen Shi does not dare to guarantee that many things in this era are only passed on to disciples who enter the room, and retail investors can only look at their faces. After all, it is not easy for people to summarize it, and it should not be passed on to you. But for Chen Shi now, those are too far away. What he has to do is wait. And wait for something to happen. The Yellow Turban Rebellion passed, and the next step was Dongzhu's entry into Luoyang, and then the 18th root princes to attack Dong, and before that, there was one thing, that is, to ask for Dong's proclamation. Whether this proclamation was brought out by Cao Cao after assassinating Dong, or Cao Cao's false edict, there is a big difference between this. Although it is both a false edict, the middle statement is bigger, and it can be said that it almost determines many things after that. Chapter 3 Before leaving. There are actually people who collect it. Chen Shi looked at Chen Lan with a surprised face, shrugged his shoulders. He had no portal view. As for the method of spiritual power extraction he practiced to teach Chen Lan nothing to say. In his words, idle is also idle, just kill time. What should be learned, teach others, and treat it as reviewing the old and knowing the new. Thank you, young master. There was a hint of eagerness between Chen Lan's eyebrows. In the following months, Chen Lan followed Chen Shi to learn. In addition to the purification of spiritual power, more to read books, recognize words. One is willing to learn, the other is willing to teach, and the learning is simple and simple. Chen Lan quickly got started. At least now she can read books by herself. Looking at the wanted notice on the wall, Chen Shi sighed. The time came. From a certain perspective of time and space, this is not impossible, but no matter which point of view, at least I have my own capital now. Chen Shi looked at Cao Mengde on the wanted notice and thought silently in his heart. Let's go, Uncle Chen, go to Fan's house. Chen Shi said to the housekeeper behind him. As soon as these words came out, Butler Chen's face darkened, but he still nodded. Chen Shi's body has now recovered, and the originally declining Chen family once again has hope, so it is time to talk about the marriage with the Fan family. Later, when Chen Shi's father died, the Fan family still came, and planned to quickly marry the second lady of the Fan family to Chen Shi to continue the incense of the Chen family, but was pushed away by Chen Shi with filial piety. But Chen Shi also knew very well that it was normal for the Fan family to be willing to keep their promises when Chen Shi was in good health, but if Chen Shi's body was not as good as day by day, probably the Fan family was unwilling to push their daughter into the fire pit. From the perspective of the Fan family can be regarded as benevolent and righteous to Chen Shi, and did not break off the marriage because the Chen family fell into the middle of the road, and when the Chen family had an accident in the first year of the Chen family, they planned to fulfill their original promise. But this is simply unforgivable for Butler Chen, since the marriage has been engaged, although there are no 3 matchmakers and 6 hires, but the 2 old men agreed to let Chen Shi marry the second lady of the Fan family who was 2 years younger than him when he was 16 years old, Fan Jian, and now the old man is driving west, the young master is 17 years old, and Yufanjia has changed his mind and not mentioned this matter. What is this? Master Chen. When the servants of the Fan family saw Chen Shi again, they were stunned for a moment, and then they bowed and quickly reported. I'm here to find Uncle Fan. Chen, she said indifferently, according to his estimate, it is basically impossible for the Fan family to regret the marriage, and it does not mean anything that Chen she does not mention the marriage contract when he is seriously ill, and it is enough to show the sincerity of the Fan family to mention the marriage contract after the death of Chen she's father. Master Chen, please go inside, the master is waiting for you in the main hall. Soon the housekeeper of the Fan family ran over. Chen she nodded. He now had a headache what to say. If people didn't want to marry him, it would be fine, but now the situation is obvious, and the Fan family doesn't plan to break the contract at all. 11. Come on, sit here. My uncle has been scrupulous about your body recently. If you have 3 long and 2 short, I can't explain it to the Chen family. The traditional father sat on the main seat with a hint of joy on his face. When Chen she kept filial piety before, Fan Liang planned to let his daughter go over, just to take care of Chen shi. As for filial piety, if the Chen family is broken, whether to keep filial piety or not is worthless. But Chen she rejected Fan Liang's plan, and then he was even more heartbroken. He couldn't afford to get sick. Fan Liang was directly stupid. His daughter's happiness was more important, or brotherly righteousness was more important. Stuck in the middle, Fan Liang's whole person was messy, and finally he could only pay attention to this matter silently. As for his daughter's marriage, it was also postponed for 3 years according to Chen shi's words. As for 3 years later, if Chen shi is still sick, Fan Liang has no good way. At that time, as long as Chen shi speaks, Fan Liang can only endure the heartache and marry his daughter. But fortunately, half a year ago, Fan Liang got the news that Chen shi was cured, which was simply a shot in the arm for him, and finally he didn't have to suffer in the middle. However, after procrastinating before, Fan Liang was a little embarrassed to mention it again, and he was waiting for Chen shi to come to the door to mention this matter, and at most the dowry he agreed to give was doubled, which he did was indeed a bit inauthentic. Go, call that girl Fan Jian over. Fan Liang greeted the housekeeper. Uncle, you don't need to call Sister Jenna over. I'm here to say goodbye to you. I plan to travel the world. A serious illness before. Let me understand a lot of things. How sad it would be if a person hadn't even gone out of the place where he had lived for a long time. I hope I can go out and take a look. Chen, she said respectfully. Fan Liang was stunned for a moment, hesitated for a moment and said, 11. My uncle did do something a little inauthentic before, but you still think about it. This world is not peaceful. Your father entrusted you to me when he died. If you have 3 long and 2 short, I can't explain it to your father. Uncle, you can rest assured. Although she is not talented, he also has a little strategy to protect himself. As he spoke, his spirit was slightly shocked. Alas, it seems that it is very difficult to stop you. Fan Liang looked at Chen shi with a sigh, with a touch of relief in his eyes. But you can leave, but you have to make a marriage, and the girl is not small. Chen shi curled his lips slightly, and said in his heart, give it to me. I don't dare to do it. Okay, that guy is 2 years younger than me. Okay, let me attack my 15-year-old little sister, ***. Of course, Chen shi also knew that in the Han dynasty, 15-year-old girls were already considered older leftover women, and it seemed that the taxes they paid would have to be doubled, and of course they didn't have to double when they got married. That uncle, I can write down the marriage book first, and how about getting married when I return from my study tour? Chen shi said helplessly. For the little loli who had been following him when he was a child, Chen shi knew very well that he could not avoid it. If he dared to break off the marriage, the Fan family would definitely be incompatible with Chen shi, and besides, marriage did not seem to have much impact on Chen shi. Well, the marriage certificate at this time is a simple birthday horoscope, and it is basically considered over after handing this over. Originally the two were compatible, but now it is just Chen shi who wrote one by himself, which is said to be legally bound. After doing everything, Chen shi began to march towards the west in a carriage, and Cao Cao, a righteous man who was rumored to be in the world, was now recruiting troops. It was obvious that Chen shi wanted to mix up a ride. After all, this era was still a little safer for the army. As for whether he could meet Liu Bei in this history, he was not very guaranteed. Chapter 4 Road Encounters. By the time Chen shi arrived in Chen Liu, the ride he wanted to take had already driven away, and Cao Mengda had already sent out the proclamation, guessing that if Chen shi could really get into the Tiger Prison Pass according to this rhythm, he would probably be able to see the 3 brothers Liu Xuanda, who are still passers-by. Young master, where are we going now? After Chen Lan made a pot of tea for Chen shi, she stood aside and asked. As for sitting, Chen shi said it many times, but unfortunately it had no effect. Let's go to the Sour Jujube, but we don't have a reputation, but fortunately, we are a scholar, and there is also a number 1 of the Chen family in Yingchuan, so there should be no problem in mixing it. Chen shi said helplessly. Originally his plan was to follow Cao Cao's troops. As a righteous man who is now famous in the world, he has not yet become a traitor, and he will not kill a hitchhiker like himself. Oh, young master, let's leave now? Chen Lan tilted her head and asked. Let's go, let's go. Let's see if we can meet another team that can take us a ride along the way. Chen shi drank all the tea in the cup in one gulp, and then walked towards the carriage, saying that when Chen shi was leaving, Fan Liang gave him a lot of entanglement. and it was estimated that he would be almost the same even if he had been in the car for 3 or 5 years. Putting on a layer of spiritual power, people no longer paid attention to their carriage. Chen Shi sat in and continued to explain to Chen Lan about spiritual extraction, but it was obvious that the progress was slow. "Young master, we may have to sleep in the streets at night." Butler Chen smiled bitterly and said, "We should have gone in the wrong direction when we forked the road before." It's okay." Chen Shi was a little ashamed on his face. He insisted on going this way before, so he casually picked up the rice cakes and distributed them to the two of them, and began to swallow them with cold water. Well, rice cakes or something are still good. "Hey, young master, look at the smoke over there." Chen Lan took 2 bites of rice cakes and inadvertently glanced north, and with sharp eyes, she saw a rising smoke in the north from a distance. "Someone, let's go rub the rice. The rice cakes are really unpalatable." Chen Shi did not hesitate to overturn what he had said before, and then instructed Butler Chen to run in the direction of the smoke. As the saying goes, looking at the mountain and running a dead horse, this is almost the same as looking at the smoke. Looking at a smoke from a distance, it is actually a big piece when it gets closer. This scale, it shouldn't be any princes. Chen Shi hesitated and stopped not far from the smoke. The princes at this time can be said to be good and bad. Some of you are behind. People may cover you when they are in a good mood. Some will drive you away, and some will even rob you. "Young master, do you want to go over and take a look?" Chen Lan asked curiously. "Look, it's so close, it's a bit sorry not to take a look, and I don't know which prince it is. Forget it, I'll cast a small spell and go over and take a look." Saying that, Chen Shi covered himself with a layer of spiritual power, and slowly melted into the surrounding environment. Originally this spell, the loophole was very large, but relying on Chen Shi's improvement, it can now be regarded as a first-class and easy to use. After Chen Shi slipped over, he looked at the surrounding villages, and there were white horses, staring at the flag in the center, touching his chin, and feeling much better, a pure nationalist, General Gongsun Zon on the white horse. Who? Just when Chen Shi was going to go back and recruit his housekeeper and maid to eat big households, plus take a ride, a loud shout came over. God pity me. Chen Shi promised that he had never heard a louder roar than this, and now his ears were still buzzing. Without waiting for Chen Shi to react, he saw a black-faced strong man jump more than 10 meters, jump out of the camp, and kill in his direction. Boom! Without relying on any weapons, the strong man landed and directly blasted out a pit several meters square on the ground. Chen Shi's figure was also shaken out by this blow. His body was embarrassed, looking at the strong man opposite, frowning. At the moment when the other party appeared, his spiritual power directly boiled. Almost all the nerves were hinting at one thing: very dangerous, extremely dangerous. "Who are you that you dare to peek into the camp?" A thunderous sound surrounded Chen Shi's side, and as soon as these words came out, a group of cavalry quickly left the camp and surrounded Chen Shi. "Do you believe it if you want to say that you are here to mix food?" Although Chen Shi was afraid, he calmed down after being surrounded. After all, to a certain extent, people like him are also a resource in this troubled world. As long as they show their value, these princes don't care about these small things. Without waiting for the other party to speak, Chen Shi said with a smile, "There are few people here. I saw the smoke from a distance and thought there were people. I wanted to come to stay overnight, but I didn't want to be the army, so I had to come to find out. After all, the armies in this world are also divided into 3, 6, and 9, and some armies will give us some protection for the scholars who travel. As for some, don't say it." When the strong man on the opposite side heard this, his brows furrowed and looked at Chen Shi. "There is proof." "Just the hand just now. You should know that my practice is different from yours. If I am a fellow practitioner, I basically have no lethality against you, and in terms of spiritual power, as long as I stay by your side, I think I am confident that I can stop me at any time according to your strength." Chen Shi's eyes flashed with a trace of light. He was betting on whether the other party was Zhong-Ida. This kind of strength, and this kind of figure, this voice, this place, it is very likely to add up. "This is also true. Since you are a scholar, then tell me where you are from. Our troops in Western Liaoning will not hurt you." The strong man nodded in agreement with Chen Shi's statement. He was very confident, and his strength made him extremely confident. "Yingchuan Chen Shi Chen Zichuan." Chen Shi said helplessly, "I think you should be Zhong-Ida." "Hey, you actually know me." The strong man was stunned for a moment, and then his face was happy. As for what Chen Shi said about Yingchuan, it was completely unclear. "Okay." Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and didn't speak, ran away from Cao Cao, and met Liu Bei, which can be regarded as another good choice. And now Gongsun Zon is not as tyrannical as in the future, and he won't mind a few people following him. "Third brother, I heard that you caught a spy." Just when Zhong Fei was about to speak, another person's voice came from behind. Looking average, with big ears and long arms, Chen Shi muttered in a low voice, followed by a red-faced strong man. No need to think about it, must be Guaneri. Thinking about it again, Chen Shi sighed. He was sure that the proportion of this world close to the romance of the 3 kingdoms was greater. Scholar Chen Shi Chen Zichuan has seen Xuan de Gong. Chen Shi saluted Liu Bei. No matter what, he was still detained by the other party, and he couldn't offend the other party no matter what. Chapter 5 Go and meet the princes of the world. Or, Chen Shi clearly saw Liu Bei startled, and smiled secretly in his heart. Basically no one knew Liu Xuande at this time. Liu Bei at this time was not the emperor's uncle, let alone the king of Hanzhong, who knew the white body. Since you are a scholar, you need help before coming to my tent. Liu Bei was happy and casually gave Chen Shi a step. It's just that I've been traveling overland for a long time, and I see smoke in the distance, and I want to stay here for a night, but I don't want it to be the place where the general's men are stationed. Chen Shi handed Liu Bei a high hat, and did not catch Cao Mengde's ride. Liu Xuande's was also fine. Can Chen Shi not know Liu Bei's current situation? Obviously, it is mixed with Gongsun Zon's team to get acquainted with the princes of the world. If you want soldiers but no soldiers, if you want people without people, if you want territory without territory, if you want money and no money, an unemployed vagrant who wants nothing and nothing. To be honest, Chen Shi estimated that Liu Bei may not have the idea of looking forward to the world at this time. After all, ambition also grows with strength. You can't use the word general. You can't do it. You can't do it. Liu Bei sneered, but there was obviously a hint of joy on his face. She heard that Meng Digong issued a proclamation, calling the righteous men of the world to fight against Dong Thief, and wanted to witness it. For me, traveling around the world is indispensable to see people from all walks of life in the world. Chen Shi said with a smile. Liu Bei was fooled by Chen Shi and couldn't touch the north, and then looked at the two brothers beside him, and the 2,000 soldiers behind him. Thinking about it, he was not afraid of a scholar making trouble, nodded and said, in that case, Sichuan can bring his own dry food, and after that, I think my soldiers will not disturb the people. Thank you, Xuande Gong. Chen Shi bowed with a smile on his face. She will come when he goes. After saying that, Chen Shi bowed again, and then withdrew and left. The third brother must not make such a move because of trivial matters in the future. After Chen Shi left, Liu Bei looked at Zhong Fei, who was still standing on the edge of the pit, and said, Big brother, if you want me to say why do you need to let that kid follow us, the army is opening the way, it's not bad if you don't arrest him. If you want me to say that it's better to drive him away, let's go to the Sauerjujube Alliance, and we can't go in with him, why let him be busy in vain? Zhong Fei touched the back of his head and said angrily, Nonsense. Liu Bei rebuked, there are very few people in the world who can read and write, so why should we offend them for trivial matters? I am also illiterate. Zhong Fei was admonished by Liu Bei, shrank his head and muttered softly, but compared to his loud voice, the low muttering was heard by everyone word for word. Alas, Ida, you have to remember, we are now under the fence, although brother Bo Gui is very good to me because of the friendship of classmates, but we don't need to cause trouble for him for some trivial things. The young man before was a scholar of the Chen family in Yingchuan. This is one of the best families in the world. Liu Bei saw that there were only the personal guards who had pacified him with him, so he explained to Zhong Fei in a low voice. Alas, the eldest brother has the ambition of a swan, but he is controlled by the villain. Guan Yunchang is quite a little heroic short-tempered. Since the Yellow Turban Rebellion to the present 5 or 6 years, the three of them have been stunned by this big man to serve the country, and Liu Bei, who is stunned, has also become a lot smoother. At least once he will hold back not to smoke the supervisor. Hey, don't say it, don't say it. There are always times in this world when you can use us. Second brother, third brother, don't be discouraged. Liu Bei smiled with a hint of astringency, and then seemed to think of something, and once again regained his fighting spirit. When Chen Shi slipped back on the other side, Chen Lan was already a little worried, but when Chen Shi suddenly appeared beside her, she was still shocked. The young master is back. Butler Chen held the riding whip, and when he saw that the figure appeared, Chen Shi quickly hid the hand holding the whip behind him. There's no need to worry so much. Chen Shi smiled and said, Okay, we met a good person. A good person card was pasted behind Liu Bei. Just follow the troops in front. They are also the troops of the Sauerjujube Alliance. Young master, this is not good. After all, Butler Chen has experienced more things, and naturally knows the destructive power of the army in this era. The soldiers are like combs, and the bandits are like grates. In short, the troops of this era are slightly better than the bandits. It's okay, after all, the other party is a capable person. Let's go, don't worry, just follow it. Luckily, we may be able to follow the armies from all walks of life to meet Dongzhuo. Let me see this Shiliang warrior. When he was young, he impressed many people with his spirit. Chen, she said with a strange look on his face. Speaking of which, whether it is Dongzhuo when he was young, or Yuan Shao who dared to point Dongzhuo with a sword when he was young, or Cao Mengde, who defeated Yuan Shao in middle age, he is actually very heroic, but unfortunately, the moment the general trend of the world fell into their hands, they were like dementia and chose the most inappropriate path. If history can choose, Dongzhuo will show his original ambitions, take out the heroism of his youth. To be honest, it is not too difficult to defeat the princes of the 18th route, Li Ayu's ruthlessness, the strength of the world's first military general plus the strength of the Shiliang Iron Cavalry, and the elite of the Bingju wolf cavalry, it is already a blessing for the princes who are not prepared for the 18th road to go back alive. Thinking of this, Chen Shi couldn't help but be a little eager. The world's first General Lu Bu, the world's first BMW Red Rabbit, and then compare it with Zhong Fei seen before. Chen Shi felt that Lu Bu as a humanoid missile was estimated to have no problem at all. The big drama in front of the Tiger prison pass, he must see it. It was a battle between inhumans. Chen Shi followed Liu Bei's troops leisurely, except for the occasional Zhong Fei who ran over to ask. Whether it was Liu Bei or Guan Eri, Chen Shi had no chance to contact again. With such a safe environment and such a leisurely time, Chen Shi felt that it was necessary to think about the future or something. After all, this is a troubled time. In case you are caught up in it without defense, then even the scum will not be left. Many people in this era pay attention to fame, but history tells Chen Shi one thing, that is, if you don't want to be killed like the great Confucian Kong Rong or choose a good team to stand in, fame or something cannot be eaten as a meal, only strength can be eaten. Follow along. Chen Shi glanced at the team in front of him. Anyway, except for the three families of Cao, Sun, and Liu, there is no need to think about the others. These three are considered to be tested, and the other guys are always a little far from the same. Just like Cao Cao's evaluation at the beginning, Huainan Yuan Shu, dry bones in the tomb, Yuan Shao of Jizhou, fierce and timid, indecisive, cherishing his life while doing big things, and forgetting his life when he sees small gains. Liu Biao of Jingzhou is not worthy of the truth. Sun Si borrows his father's name. Although Liu Zhong is a member of the royal family, he is just a dog guarding the land, and the rest are just mediocre people. One sentence contempt for all the princes. When Sun Quan ascended to the throne, Cao Cao's evaluation became that he should have a son like Sun Zhoumo, and the explanation of this sentence has only two meanings. The son should be like Sun Quan, and then say it deeply. That is, Sun Zhoumo's guy is the sun-level goods, which is stronger than Yuan Shao's son and Liu Biao's son, but that's it, and there is still a big gap with his predecessors. Chapter 6 Join my eldest brother, Chen Shi. These three families have their own advantages and disadvantages. The Sun family is the biggest disadvantage, full of internal contradictions. But the advantage is that if you want to mess around, the Sun family is indeed the best choice. After all, the Sun family strategy itself looks a little chaotic. It is simply the best prince to mess around, and the security is also high. Cao Cao can be regarded as a hero, but unfortunately his suspicion is too serious. But the advantage is that before he reaches his heyday, as long as you have the ability, follow him. No matter how arrogant you are, you can tolerate it, and if you get rid of the suspicion, you are definitely the best candidate. The important thing is that Cao Cao's advisors have not heard of anyone being arrested or killed, except for those who died of illness and committed suicide, although it seems dangerous. But in fact Cao Cao's protection of his subordinates is still very powerful. Chibi is so tragic, and I have never heard of any strategist being arrested. However, Chen Shi was not confident at all that his style could not make Cao Cao doubt. After all, no matter how much he thought about his words and demeanor, he was a little different from the ancients, and he would inadvertently offend people. As for the final result, either in the end he was inexplicably killed because of an empty box like Zhan Yu, or like Guo Jia, he didn't see Cao Cao and absolutely trusted him. Choose one of the two. Do you want to gamble? Let's talk about Liu Bei. This person still can't understand it until now. Say it's this guy pretending. But there is no difference between being able to pretend to be a lifetime and real. According to a certain saying, when you start to pretend to be garlic, you may not be used to it, but when you pretend to be used to it, you will really become garlic. In short, whether Liu Bei is pretending or revealing his true feelings, there is actually no big difference. Basically, it is a result. The problem is that there is no guarantee of safety with Liu Bei, and he has been very aggrieved for more than 10 years. Xuzhou is a good place, but there is no danger to defend. Jingzhou is a good place, but there is Liu Biao suppressed on it, and when it has the ability to defend the land of the four wars, Jingzhou is lost, and then in an instant, the country of Chenfu is also withered because of the First World War, and the whole thing is an unlucky guy. Thinking of this, Chen Shi was speechless, following Liu Bei. Unless he had about Zhong Zhao's combat effectiveness, sooner or later something would happen. The problem was that he didn't, just Zhong Fei's jump of more than 10 meters, stepping on a pit on the ground's combat effectiveness. There was no problem in beating him in a platoon. Hey tilde Chen Shi sighed. It's not a good thing. What's wrong with the young master? Chen Lan, who was originally sitting aside reading a book, looked at her son curiously. I just want to find someone to run to. Chen Shi smiled and said, there is nothing to hide about herself as a maid. This is the way to pay attention to it. The maid is more trustworthy than her subordinates. Defect to my eldest brother. Before Chen Lan could speak, Chen Shi heard Zhong Fei's loud voice. Can you not be so elusive? What do you want to do when a strong man walks silently? Chen Shi rolled his eyes and said, it was this Zhong Ida who was familiar with him now. We who practice martial arts, it is normal for us to walk without making a sound to this person. But on the contrary, if we deliberately make a sound, isn't it okay to find trouble? Zhong Fei said with a ha-ha. If Sichuan wants to defect, join my eldest brother, who is a member of the Han clan. Zhong Fei, who is like a reckless man, also has a delicate place. and did not give Chen Shi a chance to change the topic at all, and he dragged out Liu Bei's biggest signboard, which is also the signboard that will be implemented in the future. Xuandagong is also on my consideration. Chen Shi couldn't shirk a little, hesitated for a moment and said, but fortunately, Zhongfei is not as arrogant as Guan Yu. If it is Guan Yu, Chen Shi will never say that. He doesn't want to leave a thorn in the second master's heart. What to consider? Zhongfei's big paw rested on Chen Shi's shoulder. My eldest brother is a first-class great man, determined to support the Han family. Since Sichuan has something to think about, why don't you work hard with us? You have finished speaking. Chen Shi rolled his eyes and said, let me tell you so, Xuandagong now wants no one, wants territory without territory, wants to support the Han family is not just talking. First of all, you have to have someone. This person refers to the people under the rule, and then you have to be able to turn people into soldiers, select officers from the soldiers, and then have a big framework. You have to build momentum, there will be talents to vote, and after doing this, you will have the qualifications to compete with the heroes of the world. After saying that, Chen Shi may feel that Zhongfei doesn't understand, and then gestures, look, this is probably the height at which a family stands, money and food are all available. Once there is a chance, you can change from a powerful family to a regular, and Xuandagong is almost at this height. There is nothing. The only title of the Han clan has not yet been recognized by the clan mansion, which can be said to be extremely difficult. Zhongfei's face darkened a lot, but he did not refute Chen Shi's words. He was not stupid, but his personality was a little irritable. Then you talk about something else. Zhongfei looked at Chen Shi curiously. Well, let's talk about Cao Mengde who issued the proclamation this time. I am extremely optimistic about this, and the assassination of Dong will not succeed, and then the proclamation will unite the righteous men of the world to fight against Dong, and after this time, whether he wins or loses, he will be famous all over the world, and then as long as he seizes the opportunity to take advantage of the situation, the world will be shocked. The board of directors failed? Obviously, Zhongfei's mind was not on Cao Mengde, but on the sentence regardless of victory or defeat. What is the goal of the director? Chen Shi did not explain, but asked a question. Rescue the Son of Heaven and make the world no longer chaotic. Zhongfei said righteously. Then if Dong Zhuo is defeated, he will run away with the Son of Heaven. He dares. Zhongfei angrily rebuked. You go and ask him if he dares. My ears are already buzzing. Your voice is too loud. It's really terrible. Chen Shi said with a headache. Zhongfei sneered, but there was already a shadow in his heart, and his intuition told him that what Chen Shi said was very likely to happen. Besides, snakes have no head, so many righteous men must have a commander. Who will command? Who will mobilize grain and grass, horses, and how to unify the orders of all parties? Chen Shi asked a few more questions. The most important thing is that if Luoyang is defeated and Dong Zhuo coerces the emperor to Chang'an, what should we do? To chase or not to chase? Whether the grain and grass can support it? If the chase causes the emperor to suffer, who is responsible? And most importantly, people are selfish. Zhongfei was silent. He didn't think about what Chen Shi said, but when Chen Shi said it, Zhongfei understood. These were all fatal. According to what you say, the Son of Heaven can't save it. Zhongfei said with a lost face. Absolutely impossible. If you want to save the Son of Heaven, first of all, there must be a Son of Heaven's army in Luoyang, to be able to protect the Son of Heaven from damage, and secondly, the rescue troops must be able to completely suppress Dong Zhuo's troops and prevent the opponent's dog from jumping over the wall. These 2 points are the most basic, and we can't do any of them. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, it was a dream to save the emperor during this period. Chapter 7 Chen Zichuan is better than the general trend. Chapter 7. Zhongfei returned to the camp in front in disappointment. He had completely forgotten his original purpose, and Chen Shi's set of random punches almost knocked Zhongfei unconscious. In the next few days, Zhongfei did not appear again. Chen Shi continued to think about his future direction. To be honest, in Liu Bei's heyday, if it weren't for the second master being in the circle, who would clean up who would be in the 3 kingdoms of Wei, Shu, and Wu would not be certain. The war potential of Shu at that time was not a joke, especially in this very abnormal history. After watching Zhongfei, Chen Shi almost understood how much the 5 tiger generals were to a certain extent, and the enemy of 10,000 people was not bragging, and these 5 people did not add anything else to the top 50,000 troops as if they were playing. If you think about it this way, it seems to be very appropriate with Liu Bei, but when you think about it again, it seems that Liu Bei has died as an important staff officer, which is not a good thing. Isn't it a tragedy if you accidentally win the lottery? After thinking about it, in the end, Chen Shi still didn't have a bottom, so he could only say that he was taking 1 step at a time. With this idea, Chen Shi began to think about how to get into the big tent of the princes of the 18th Road, but Liu Bei couldn't help in this regard. After all, he was not a prince all the way, although he had a seat afterwards, but it was obvious that he had no qualifications for others, and if he wanted to bring people in, only Gongsun Zon could do it, but the problem was that he and Gongsun Zon had no intersection. Just when Chen Shi was thinking about how to get in, Zhongfei came again, staring at Chen Shi without speaking. until he looked at Chen Shi uncomfortable. Ida, you see that the two of us are so familiar. Don't play this set. If you say anything, I can help you and do my best to help you. Chen Shi said, a little uncomfortable. My eldest brother wants to see you. Okay, I'm thinking about how I can get into the camp, so that it can save me a little trouble. Chen Shi curled his lips and said, thinking about it, he knew that Zhong Fei's depressed expression in the past few days was definitely seen by Liu Bei, and then he put out what he said, wanting to win him over. Chen Shi was dragged into the tent by Zhong Fei. Guan Yu sat in the first position of the left hand. Zhong Fei took him to the second position of the left hand. Liu Bei sat in the main seat, and the position of the right hand was completely empty. I've seen Xuan Dagong. Chen Shi bowed. Sit down. You and I don't have to meet in private. Sichuan is good these days. We are about to arrive at Xuanzhou, and now more than a dozen armies have come to Saojuju to join the alliance, which is vast and stretches for hundreds of miles. Liu Bei smiled and said to Chen Shi, in the future, we are about to enter the Saojuju, and then Sichuan needs to be careful. I heard that Sichuan wants to see all kinds of righteous men. I think Sichuan should think more about this aspect. After all, it is a chaotic situation. Chen Shi was a little helpless. To say that there were one or two more people in the 2000, it was impossible to see it at all, not to mention that among the hundreds of thousands of people, it was nothing more than him. But what Liu Bei said did have to be considered, and the implied was obvious. Please teach Xuan Dagong. Chen Shi said helplessly. He knew the method, and Liu Bei also knew the method, but at this time it was better to let Liu Bei say it, and there would be no step in what he said. General Gongsun happens to lack a main thinner. I think you will be able to do it with Sichuan's talent. Liu Bei said with a smile. Alas, thank you Xuandegang for your love, she is very grateful, and I am willing to be the chief clerk in the army. Chen Shi sighed and said, thinking that the remaining two people from home also had arrangements, although women were not allowed to be brought in the army, but the singers brought by these 18th princes when they asked for dong were not a few. As long as they were careful, it was not serious. So far, Chen Shi has become a glorious chief clerk in Liu Bei's hands. To be honest, he didn't even see Gongsunzon's face, he just hung a name, and nagged Liu Bei every day, so there was nothing else. But it was obvious that Liu Xuan's eyes were more and more eager to look at him, and even he could feel that he had entered Liu Guanzhang's small circle. After all, Liu Bei didn't even have Zhen Yong at this time. If you explain what may happen in the future according to Chen Shi's understanding of the Three Kingdoms era, it is not an estimate, but a real certainty. In the case of knowing the result and knowing the character of the character, no matter how you make it up, you can fool Liu Bei, not to mention that he is Liu Bei. Even if Zhuge Liang comes, it is estimated that he will be suppressed by Chen Shi's general trend analysis. Obviously, Liu Bei is now in a state of ignorance, shocked by the future analyzed by Chen Shi, and his eye-catching, reasonable, and well-founded analysis makes Liu Bei have to believe. Wizard. Details are very important, but the long-term vision is more important. With the general trend of Chen Shi's analysis, Liu Bei understands the importance of a strategist more and more, with the future situation development that Chen Shi instilled in him during this time. Although he did not say how to operate, but with a direction, naturally there is an opportunity to operate, and even Liu Bei has now found what he should do in the future. However, what disappointed Liu Bei was that Chen Shi didn't know why he hadn't understood his hints. In his opinion, Chen Shi intentionally or unintentionally instilled these things in him, probably as a thank you gift for bringing him to the Saojuju before. The context of this future situation, if properly operated, could make him a prince within a few years. It was indeed very cost-effective. The question is whether there is a strategy compared with the person who advised. For Liu Bei now, Chen Shi, who is longer than the general trend, is very important to him, very important. With his guidance to support the Han dynasty, the road is no longer a fog to see flowers, a broad road is in front of him. But every time Liu Bei hints that Chen Shi can defect to him, Chen Shi begins to be stupid. Don't you really understand? What a joke. Liu Bei didn't believe it at all. He was so smart, how could he not understand? Chen Shi side really didn't understand Liu Bei's thoughts. He still held the idea of bragging and farting with Liu Bei. As long as Liu Bei led himself to the future situation, Chen Shi didn't mind using the romance of the Three Kingdoms, or something to fool around. As for the solicitation, Chen Shi really didn't notice, probably because it was too obscure, and when talking about the future situation, people like Chen Shi would definitely not notice other people's hints, or most people would not notice it. Gongsunzon was a relatively late prince, and after Liu Bei and others arrived, within 5 days, the princes of the 18th road had already arrived. I have to say that Gongsunzon is a good brother, although he is a little straight, but he treats Liu Bei really well. First he brought Liu Bei to participate in the princely alliance, showing his face, and then he was afraid that Liu Bei, who had no soldiers and generals, was a little embarrassed to participate in the alliance, and with a wave of his hand, the original 2,000 infantry cavalry was not transferred back to his camp and given to Liu Bei to fill the facade. You must know that there are more than 300 cavalrymen among them. Gongsunzon, a local tyrant born in western Liaoning, did not take these horses seriously, and if other princes had to care about them, horses were always a very valuable strategic material in this era. Chapter 8 You can still mix in like this tilde. Or, General Gongsun is quite good to Xuandagong. Chen Shi smiled and said, it seems that General Gongsun wants Xuandagong to show his face in front of all the righteous men. You must know that 300 cavalry, plus 2,000 infantry, can be regarded as a small force all the way. Alas, Xuanda deserves it. Liu Bei sighed and said, Gongsun Zon treated him like this, so he didn't know what to do. Don't forget your old brother when you are wide in the future. Chen Shi had a teasing tone, thinking about saving Shuzhou after that, although Gongsun Zon was not optimistic, but in the friendship of classmates, he directly made up for Liu Bei with 5,000 steps, and then sent Zhao Yun to help, to say that it is impossible to say that Gongsun Zon can't see Zhao Yun and Liu Bei's eyebrows, but it is still so powerful. Which is enough to show that Gongsun Zon is absolutely nothing to say to the buddies he recognizes. If there is a long day, I will not forget each other. Liu Bei looked at Chen Shi solemnly and said, until the unresponsive Chen Shi finally understood that Liu Bei's words were actually not just for Gongsun Zon. Ha ha ha, it will be wide soon, soon. Chen Shi tilted his head and said a little unnaturally, he still wanted to see Cao Cao, Sun Jian, Yuan Shao, and others, so he couldn't be in such a hurry to give an answer. Seeing Chen Shi turn his head unnaturally, Liu Bei couldn't help but be a little disappointed, but then he recovered. Anyway, people are still by his side, there is an opportunity, sooner or later he will become his own person. The next day officially began the alliance, and Liu Bei, as a small force, was qualified to appear in the venue of the alliance behind Gongsun Zon, so naturally Chen Shi seized the opportunity to mix in. Let's talk about the names of the 18 lords. The first town, Befriending Heroes and Befriending Heroes, the rear general and the governor of Nanyang, Yuan Shu, was named Highway. The second town is connected to the sons, well read in the 9 classics, and the governor of Jizhou, Han Fu, is the character Wenjie. The third town is broad-minded, eloquent, knowledgeable about the present and ancient times, and the governor of Yuzhou, Kong Ren, styled Gongshu. The fourth town is filial and benevolent, humble towards the soldiers, and the governor of Yangzhou, Liu Dai, styled Gongshan. The fifth town, known for his righteousness and wealth, spent money like dirt, and Wang Quang, the governor of Henan, was styled Gongjie. The sixth town is to provide relief to the poor and in emergencies, with great ambitions and lofty ambitions. Zhong Miao, the governor of Chenliu, was styled Mengzhua. The seventh town was benevolent and benevolent, intelligent and knowledgeable. The governor of Dongjun, Qiao Maro, styled Yuan Wei. The eighth town, loyal and upright, Yuan Liang, handsome and elegant, Shanyang governor Yuan Yi, courtesy name Boy. In the ninth garrison, he was strategic, wise, skilled in martial arts, and able to write civil servants. The prime minister of Jibei, Bao Xin, styled Yancheng. The 10th town, the sect of the saints, the hospitable and virtuous, the governor of Beihai, Kong Rong, the character Wenju. The 11th town, outstanding martial arts, outstanding majesty, Guanling governor Zhongchao, courtesy name Mengao. The 12th garrison, a benevolent gentleman, with good morals and gentleness, was the governor of Shuzhou, Dao Qian, styled Gongzu. The 13th town, known as Zhenqiang and Hu, was well known in both the Yi and Xia regions, and the governor of Shiliang, Ma Teng, styled Shoucheng. The 14th garrison, with a sound like a giant bell, was handsome and imposing. Gongsun Zon, the governor of Yuzhou, was styled Bo Gui. The 15th garrison, adapting to the situation, bravely in the face of difficulties, the governor of Shandong, Zhong Yong, styled Zhisheng. The 16th town, the hero is the best in the world, the brave is unparalleled, the Marquis of Wuqing, the governor of Changsha, Sun Jianwentai. The 17th garrison, 4 generations of 3 dukes, many of his family members were former officials, including the Marquis of Qishang and the governor of Bohai, Yuan Shao, whose courtesy name was Benchu. I really don't want to copy this, but if I don't, it's really not possible. In addition, Cao Cao's headquarters gathered a total of 18 princes. Each prince has as many as 30,000 to 50,000, as little as 10,000 to 20,000, and of course there are also teams like Cao Cao and Liu Bei that only have 2,000 or 3,000, but the difference is that Cao Cao is the initiator, and there must be a seat. As for Liu Bei, he can only look at his face. But fortunately, when Cao Cao and Liu Bei were chatting, Chen Shi stabbed out Liu Bei's identity with his mouth. Han clan relatives. Hey, this is a very important news. The other Han clan relatives are nesting on their respective territories. Just Liu Bei came, and brought more than 2,000 people. No matter how many people there are, after all, it is an identity, everyone adds up, and Liu Bei mixed in. After Cao Cao's initiative to show goodwill, the heroic Yuan Shao successfully won the position of the leader, and Yuan Shu could only supervise the grain and grass. At this time, Liu Bei had already mixed in among the princes, and he mixed in before the leader came up, and it was 2 different things to wait for the leader to ask before giving a seat. At least now Liu Bei can generously find a place to sit, as a small prince all the way to mix among the 18th princes, and on the surface he also has a little right to speak. Before Liu Bei could figure out what was going on, Chen Shi pulled his sleeves and sat next to Dao Qian and Kong Rong, and the two were also very interested in Liu Bei, a member of the Han clan, and the three of them talked about it very easily. As for Chen Shi, Guan Yu, and Zhong Fei, they sat behind Liu Bei. This time it was completely different from history. Guan Yu and Zhong Fei also had seats. After all, this was an orthodox prince who had been in the name of the emperor's relatives all the way. No matter how small the princes were, as long as they were recognized, then the monarchs were equal in face. After all, if Guan Yu slapped Guan Yu in the face this time, it would not offend Liu Bei, but offended everyone present. Even if Yuan Shu was stupid, he would not do this. Second master, sit here. Remember that now you are a general under Duke Xuanda, not a horse archer or something. Chen Shi began to instill in Guan Yu. After all, Liu Bei's subordinates are these two fierce generals who support the facade, and now they have been mixed into the princes. As long as you don't say that, no one knows. After all, when distributing grain and grass, Liu Bei must be allocated as a prince all the way. The princes must have the momentum of the princes. It doesn't matter if there are few people coming, as long as it is fierce enough. No one will doubt it. Huh? Guan Yu was startled, touched his long beard, and opened his eyes slightly to look at Chen Shi. Sichuan is honest. I don't know what the situation is now, why we are sitting here all of a sudden. Because we are all the way to the royal army, General Gongsun gave us a chance, and we took advantage of the trend to become the princes of the whole way, with the name of the Xuanda Gong Han clan on it. As long as we show our value, everyone will recognize the identity of this way. Chen Shi said with a smile on his face, but he didn't expect Guan Yu, who looked very arrogant, to be quite talkative. What Chen Shi didn't know was that Guan Yu looked cold and arrogant more because he was not good at speaking, coupled with his majestic face, which naturally made everyone feel a kind of cold arrogance. But if he became familiar with it and had the ability, he would not offend people because of his words, and Guan Yu was still very good at communicating. Is this okay? Zhong Fei and Guan Yu were stunned. Yes, it's okay. I think it's a bit too much. Chen Shi smiled and said, but it was obvious that there was a hint of joke on his face. At that time, it will depend on the two generals. If there is a chance, we must suppress all the people present. The strength of the two and the status of Xuanda Gong can be said to complement each other. And your current performance will affect the official position of Duke Xuanda in the future. Official position? Guan Yu shouted lowly. Well, how much effort is made in this battle, and how much face is shown, will finally determine Dongzhuo's judgment on the strength of the Qinhuang army from all walks of life. After Dongzhuo is defeated, he will rely on the emperor in his hand to divide the princes of the Quantung. As long as Xuanda Gong enters Dongzhuo's eyes, it will naturally be used as the object of differentiation, so that there will naturally be an official position, which can be said to be the foundation of all future development. If you don't want to send people under the fence for decades, if you can't show your grand ambitions, this time you'd better do your best. Chen Shi said to Guan Yu and Zhong Fei extremely cautiously. This is what he summed up before. It can be said that the 18th Root Prince's attack on Dong is the opportunity for the rise of the characters among the 18th Root Princes, whether it is Cao Cao, Sun Jian, or Yuan Shao. These are all obtained after this time that they want to get what they want. If Liu Bei can get into Dongzhuo's eyes this time as a pawn to divide the princes of the Guangdong, then the gap between Liu Bei and these princes will be narrowed to almost none, and then as long as he puts on the shell of the Han clan, who is better and who is inferior is still two words. Chapter 9 Yuan Shao and Dongzhuo were during this period. Looking at Guan and Zhong who were gearing up, Chen Shi touched his chin. He needed to improve his plan again. After all, the princes of the 18th Root were too cheap in Dong. There were those who could be famous, some who could make profits, and those who could gain fame and fortune. These were all very important. February in 190 AD was still very cold. Just sitting on the ground like this, even if there was a brazier, Chen Shi still trembled slightly, and Guan Yu and Zhong Fei were not comparable at all. Where was their physical fitness? And there was Qi. Even if they left Siberia, they were probably able to resist. To some extent, they were no longer human. Soon the barbecue was served, the song and dance were also performed, the wine was full, and after watching the song and dance, under the leadership of Yuan Benchu, they began to discuss how to clean up Dongzhuo, at least in the eyes of most people, this time Dong by one. First, Cao Cao proposed to divide the troops into 5 routes, all the way to attack Sisui Pass, all the way to feign attack Hulao to attract firepower, all the way around Luoyang to attack it, all the way to cut off the traffic between Hanggu and Luoyang, extinguishing Dongzhuo's idea of transferring reinforcements to his hometown, and finally cutting off the retreat of Xinjiang all the way. To be honest, this proposal can be said to have brought the advantages of the coalition army to the extreme, and as long as it is properly deployed, even if Dongzhuo cannot be killed, it will hit Dongzhuo hard, but unfortunately this proposal was rejected. Yuan Shao proposed to overthrow Dongzhuo head-on, without any cover-up, and run directly over from Hulao Pass and crush Dongzhuo to death. Well, in Chen Shi's opinion, Yuan Benchu's proposal is also very good. If everyone is willing to die, this plan is more direct, more effective, and simpler than Cao Cao's plan. From this point of view, Yuan Shao at this time is not a straw bag. and it is precisely because of this that everyone agreed to this proposal after little thought. To say that Yuan Shao's hand, in Chen Shi's view, is purely to overwhelm people, but the effect is very good, because the initiative is in his hands. He can do whatever he wants to fight a decisive battle at Hulao Pass, then Dong Zhuo can only bite the bullet and follow the decisive battle at Hulao Pass, and it can be regarded as a good strategy to finish his work in one battle. It's a pity that Yuan Shao ignored the selfishness of these people, or Yuan Shao deliberately indulged the selfishness of these people, so that these people could spend time under the tiger prison, and the people who died were not his, and those who were weakened were the enemies in the future. For Yuan Shao, this is very beneficial, and it is very simple. The defeat is because you did not do your best. After all, we have many soldiers. As long as we serve to the death, we can definitely win. This is, everyone must admit, win, sung in the world. It must be Yuan Benchu commanded properly. There will be no loss in winning or losing. It will only make his own advantage greater. This is a good strategy from any point of view. After all, it is not very clear who the defender of Sisui Pass is at this time. As for the other princes are swaying towards Hulao Pass, and the speed of the soldiers is not suitable for this battle. At this time, Dong Zhuo and Luoyang had already received the news, and after a while of fighting and scolding, the Xiangfu turned off the fire and gathered his generals, ready to clean up the guys who came to make trouble in the east. In Luoyang City, Dong Zhuogao sat on the couch, looking at his fierce generals, and felt at ease. Guangdong rats, gather an army of 500,000 to come and attack our family. What do you think to listen to me? A person under the tent strode out, wearing a golden crown on his top, wearing 100 flowers robe, wearing Tanglian armor, wearing a lion barbarian treasure belt, and angular cheeks, revealing the domineering spirit of looking at the world. It was the flying General Lu Bu. The well-deserved first general of the Three Kingdoms period was usually the target of besieged and beaten as soon as he appeared. But no matter how many people the other party had, he could only be the strongest to repel him, the highest peak of force in the Three Kingdoms era. I am willing to share my father's worries. The child regards the generals of Kanto as rats, and I am willing to personally lead 30,000 elite cavalry to defeat the rats in Kanto for my father. As expected of my son Fengxian. Dong Zhuo laughed. He was very satisfied with his son, thinking that when he was in Luoyang, Ding Yuan almost slaughtered him by relying on Lu Bu. Lu Bu alone chiseled through the defense line arranged by 10,000 people. If it weren't for the fighting to the death of his generals, he himself would have a hand, and he might have knelt down that time. But even so, Hua Zhong, Guo Sai, Li Ji, Pan Chou, Zhong Ji, and Zhong Xiu combined were almost taken away by Lu Bu. You must know that Hua Zhong was known as a brave general of Shiliang before. Zhong Xiu was young and vigorous, and everyone else had such a hand. But even if he was almost served by Lu Bu, it shows Lu Bu's strength. Just when Dong Zhuo was about to order Lu Bu to end the Kanto rats, a person walked out behind Lu Bu, kill chickens with a knife, just a rat in the Guangdong. The last will be willing to go, and the other party who will be killed will fall into the water. Okay, good. With such a fierce general, why should I care about the rats in the east? Hua Zhong obeys orders. The last will be. I order you to be the vanguard, lead 50,000 infantry and cavalry, and drive to Sisua Pass to hold on, and beware of the sneak attack of the rats in the east. The last general will obey the order. Xu Rong obeyed the order. The last will be. You are ordered to lead 50,000 troops to stick to the tiger prison, and there must be no loss. Okay. Xu Rong replied with a resolute expression. Pan Chou and Zhong Ji ordered you two to lead 100,000 infantry to guard all the dangerous points in Luoyang. Yes. Li Ji, Guo Sai, you two lead 50,000 infantry and cavalry to guard Hangu. Han Sui dares to kill directly if there is any wrongdoing. Yes. The rest of the people are waiting to inspect the movements of Luoyang. If anyone dares to have an affair with the rats in Guangdong, they will be killed. Everyone agreed. I have to say that Dong Zhuo still had some skills at this time, but unfortunately after returning to Chang'an, with the natural danger of Hangu, Dong Zhuo completely degenerated. There is no way, as the old saying goes, wine is a gut ***, color is a bone-scraping steel knife, wealth is a tiger going down the mountain, anger is the root of trouble, and back to Chang'an, Dong Zhuo took all these 4 items. It can only be said that comfort makes people depraved, without ambition, in this troubled world can only become a stepping stone for others. Liu Bei's camp was naturally close to Gongsunzon, but unlike before, it was not dependent on Gongsunzon now, but independent of Gongsunzon, and was also divided into small princes along the way, and grain and grass were distributed on time. When Liu Bei and Gongsunzon came back from chatting, Chen Shi, Guan Yu, and Zhong Fei were studying what would happen later, but it was obvious that Chen Shi was indoctrination, and Guan Yu and Zhong Fei could only sit there and listen. Thank you, sir, for your recent help, and I have nothing to repay you. Liu Bei entered the tent and walked straight towards Chen Shi, bowing to Chen Shi. Unlike Guan Yu and Zhong Fei's dullness, Liu Bei knew very well what it meant to be able to sit in that position today and mix among the princes. At some point, Liu Bei could also mix in a bunch of feudal officials and brag and fart with them. which Liu Bei didn't dare to think about at all before, although he had that ambition, but he was born humble, and he could never erase the inferiority complex in his heart. Chapter 10 What We Need to Do. Or, Xuan de Gong doesn't have to be like this. Chen Shi quickly stood up and helped Liu Bei up. It was not a good thing to receive a salute from the other party for nothing. As soon as he was helped by Chen Shi, Liu Bei straightened up, but unlike before, this time Liu Bei did not open his mouth to solicitation, but just asked, "Sir, what other plans do you have?" Xuan de Gong doesn't have to be like this. The rest is just to take one step at a time. Now there is a good start, and the rest depends more on the two generals, Guan Yanchang and Zhong Ida. Chen Shi shook his head, saying that what can be done now has been done, and all that remains is to wait for the opportunity. Speaking of which, it's not that Chen Shi is unwilling to save Sun Jian, it's just that Liu Bei's foundation is too thin now. Maybe he can't save people and put himself in. How brave the Shiliang elite cavalry is, Chen Shi still has no bottom. Because of this, Chen Shi can only look at the situation, whether Sun Jian, the tiger, will be overturned by Hua Zhong like a romance. You must know that this time Sun Jian's 4 right-hand men are all with them. According to the evaluation of the second master, even if he goes all out, he is guaranteed to be able to kill 1 or 2 of them smoothly when he picks Sun Jian, and more often the two sides retreat unharmed. From this point of view, Hua Zhong's strength is not a joke. Even if it is worse than the second master, it is not much worse, but it is done by the second master within 3 or 5 combinations, which is estimated to be a big problem. Of course, Chen Shi didn't ask carefully about this, and he knew when he wanted to come, and he was sure that Guan Eri would still have 1 or 2 tricks. In the time that followed, Chen Shi and Liu Guanzhong drank and bragged in the camp, and I have to say that the treatment of the princes of the 18th route was still very good, listening to the music, drinking, and there was no pressure of the coming war at all. Before leaving, Chen Shi said to Liu Bei drunkenly, "When the Marquis of Wuqing comes back, remember to hold him back, don't let him be desperate, otherwise something will really happen." Liu Bei didn't take this to heart, mainly because he didn't understand what's going on. The big guy continued to eat and drink every day, bragging and farting. "You touted and praised me, I praised and praised you, and it was a lot of fun to play." When Sun Jian, who was covered in blood, broke into the big tent, Yuan Shao and others were drinking. Sun Jian's eyes were blood red. He only stared at Yuan Shu, drew his sword, and shouted, "Yuan Shu's child is dead." Yuan Shu originally saw that Sun Jian was shaking in his heart, but when he saw Sun Jian slashing at him with a knife, he was shocked, and then quickly dodged like a rabbit and hid behind Yuan Shao. "Hold him." Yuan Shao was very upset. He didn't find Sun Jian so ignorant of current affairs before, and he was not the son of man. "In my heart, everyone is a person with status, inexplicably for something. I personally started with a knife. You are not ashamed, we are still ashamed." A large number of generals and soldiers rushed forward to subdue Sun Jian and detain him. "Marquis Wuqing, what's going on with you?" Yuan Shao asked. "You ask Yuan Shu." Sun Jian looked at Yuan Shu hatefully, gritted his teeth and said, "Yuan Shu's child cut off my grain and grass. My army did not eat for several days, and was successfully stolen by Hua Zhong, suffering heavy losses, and my brother Zhu Mao died in battle." Yuan Shu accepted his life. When Tai calms his anger, he has something to say. Cao Cao and Liu Bei on the side reacted. Liu Bei was shocked by Chen Shi's words when he was drunk that day. So early he knew that this kind of thing would happen, talent. The more Sun Jian spoke, the more angry he became. His eyes widened angrily, staring at Yuan Shu resentfully, and even the violent struggle almost broke away from the person who pulled the frame, and he couldn't rush over and press Yuan Shu under him and beat him violently. Highway. Yuan Shao had a gloomy face. He didn't want to care about this bad thing at all, but as the leader of the alliance, he had the responsibility to mediate the relationship between everyone, so he had no choice but to wink at Yuan Shu. "What's going on?" I don't know." Yuan Shu directly denied this. Immediately, Sun Jian was furious. "You supervise the transportation of grain and grass. My army is short of food. Can you not know? Anyway, don't think about shirking." Yuan Shu also knew that the basket he stabbed this time seemed to be a bit big, and he originally planned to scrap Sun Jian's soldiers, but Zhu Mao died. Damn it, this news even frightened Yuan Shu. Zhu Mao was one of the 4 cadres under Sun Jian, famous for his bravery, and Sun Jian can be said to be brothers, but he was killed. "Nima, do you want to be so fierce in Shiliang? Hua Zhong, do you want to be so ferocious?" "I am not ready to completely turn my face with Sun Jian, Cheng." Yuan Shu's eyes rolled, and a bad plan was in hand. "Well, I have been feeling unwell these past few days, and the supervision of grain and grass has all been handed over to my subordinates. It must be that person who broke the big thing. Wuqing Hu, this is not my fault. Come on, cut off that grain supervisor for me." As soon as the words fell, a group of soldiers rushed in under the leadership of Ji Ling, and then dragged the supervisor behind Yuan Shu out, without explaining at all, and after a while, with a scream, the man was beheaded. Sun Jian was directly dumbfounded, looked at Yuan Shu, stretched out his bloody fingers, and pointed at him. You. Wentai, please take care of the overall situation. Cao Cao sighed and advised. The people next to him basically knew what was going on, and after Cao Cao spoke, they all looked at Sun Jian, and finally Sun Jian sighed dejectedly. More than 500,000 troops, if you can work together, what is there to be afraid of? Leader, farewell. After saying that, Sun Jian turned around and left without looking back. Cao Cao glared at Yuan Shu, seeing him sneering again and again, and said in his heart, the kid is not enough to conspire with. Turned around and left, and a banquet broke up unhappily. Everyone looked at each other, and then they all turned around and left. Xuandegang doesn't look very happy. Chen Shi nestled in the tent, and when he saw Liu Bei coming in with a gloomy face, he quickly got up and said, Sit down. Why should you and I be like this? Liu Bei waved his hand and sighed, briefly explaining what was in the tent. Oh, Yuan Shu did this. Sun Jian was defeated. Sure enough, the next big drama officially began. The battle between the vanguards is over. Wei and Dongzhi were going to come to the stage. I think Huazhong will come over to challenge soon. Chen Shi held a pair of wisdom beads. The second master will depend on you next. If Huazhong comes to challenge, you can observe more, and then go up. It is best to catch him alive. If you are not sure, you will cut off the other party. It will not dishonor its mission. Guan Yu opened his eyes slightly and said proudly, What you have to do is to be a peacemaker, and mediate the conflicts between the princes like Cao Mengde. If necessary, you can pull Kong Rong and Dao Chen up. The alliance is the most important. Only by repelling Dong Zhuo and supporting the Han dynasty can there be hope. Chen Shi said sinisterly. Chapter 11 My great axe is hungry and thirsty. In the coalition tent, although it was a defeat, it did not affect the emotions of most people, and it was time to eat and drink. It was a good thing on the surface, but all kinds of dirt behind the scenes. At this time, the coalition army had already arrived at the Sisui Pass, and Sun Jian was already waiting for the coalition army to avenge his subordinate General Zhu Mao. Anyway, he was not ready to take action. This coalition force of the pit father pitted him once. He would never be pitted a second time, at least he thought so. Liu Guan and Zhong are also in the big tent. Naturally, Chen Shi, who knows that a good show is about to be staged, is also nestled in the big tent. To be honest, the coalition army at this time is not too particular. As long as you are the prince's advisor or general, you can follow the princes to have a meal. Once Chen Shi followed Yuan Shao and mixed in, and no one paid attention. It is estimated that Chen Shi was regarded as Yuan Shao's advisor. However, Liu Bei's expression was obviously a little ugly that time, but when he looked back, he found that Chen Shi was still in his tent, and he understood that Chen Shi just followed Yuan Shao into the room for dinner, and then took Chen Shi with him every time. If you want to say that Liu Bei brought more people, Cao Cao brought more people. The two brothers of Xiahou, Cao Hong, Cao Ren, Li Jin, sat in a row behind them. They were all Cao Cao's people. As for the others, only 2 or 3 generals could come in, and there were not many people with names in the entire big tent of the strategists. In the past few days, Liu Bei has also become familiar with it, and his courage has become bigger. At least now he is not stage fright at all when bragging with Yuan Shao and others. The momentum is also much stronger than before. With the demeanor of the princes, there is no way, all day long and the princes are mixed together. The other party also regards you as a character. After a long time, it is self-contained. Of course, it is undeniable that Liu Bei himself has this ambition. If he does not have such an ambition, it is estimated that Liu Bei is still weaving straw sandals now. Zichuan, don't eat it. Guan Yu stabbed Chen Shi, who was still gnawing beef there, with his elbow. Are we going to make a move? Zhong Fei whispered. Look at the situation. Chen Shi wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Report, Huazhong, the defender of Sisui Pass, came to challenge and has killed several of our generals. The herald came a little later than the prince's own intelligence. For Huazhong, all the princes are now very disdainful. There are 50,000 people in Sisui Pass, and their 500,000 troops are stationed here. Huazhong actually dares to come down and challenge, looking for death. There is really no general in the coalition army. Who wants to fight? Kill Huazhong. Yuan Shao sat in the main seat and said with an indifferent expression. It didn't matter to him whether Huazhong killed the coalition army or the coalition army killed Huazhong, and he was happy to watch the fun. As soon as the words fell, a general wearing iron armor and holding a steel gun behind Yuan Shu stepped out. The young general is willing to go. This is my General Yu Shi. Yuan Shu looked proud. Okay, General Yu Shi is willing to go. If you kill Huazhong, I will definitely remember your first achievement. Yuan Shao was overjoyed. Yuan Shu's generals, kill Huazhong as a goodbye for Yuan Shu, prove the strength of the Yuan family, and if Yuan Shu is killed, the weaker Yuan Shu will be able to stabilize his position as head of the family. Hey, second master, what do you think of this Yu Shi? Chen Shi stabbed Guan Yu and asked. Dead, Huazhong defeated Sun Jian and beheaded Zhu Mao. Yushi is just a young general who has not even condensed his chi, and he will surely die. Guan Yu opened his eyes and said with a disdainful face. Sure enough, it was only a cup of tea to go out, and the herald came back. General Yushi was beheaded by Hua Zhong under the horse. At this time, Guan Yu's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light, which was the look of meeting an opponent. What? Yuan Shu was directly dumbfounded, pointing at the herald with a dull expression, and his right-hand man was beheaded with a move, and no one could believe it. Who wants to fight and kill Hua Zhong, and avenge the shame? Yuan Shao angrily reprimanded. Seeing that the second master was about to stand up, Chen Shi hurriedly grabbed him. Zichuan, what are you doing? I estimate that Hua Zhong is taking a fierce route, and it should reach the level of internal gasification, which can be regarded as a pretty good opponent. Guan Yu said in a low voice. Don't worry. Hua Zhong hasn't shown his strength yet. The second master waits. Chen Shi hurriedly comforted him, but he was also surprised by Hua Zhong's strength. According to Guan Yu, martial arts cultivation from the beginning of the entry level is to cultivate the first chi. To the time of internal chi condensation, it can be regarded as a small master. In the upper level, internal chi transformation, this is almost to the extreme of cultivation, and then it is to break through this layer of extreme, as long as it reaches the degree of internal chi leaving the body. According to the second master, you can give it a try when you meet Xiang Wang. At this moment, Han Fu, the governor of Jizhou, spoke. I have General Pan Feng, who can behead Hua Zhong. General Pan Feng is willing to go. Yuan Shao said with a playful expression. Han Fu, Jizhou is a good place. After squeezing all the meat on the leg of lamb in one bite, Pan Feng stood up. The last general is willing to go. My big axe is already unbearable. Pan Feng, who had been sitting behind Han Fu, strode out, only to see that this person was 9 feet tall, dressed in military uniform, and holding a giant axe the size of a door panel in one hand. Chen Shi frowned, turned his head to look at Guan Yu. How is the second master? Natural divine power, plus the peak of condensation into a gang. There is another step to squeeze into the internal chi to the extent that it is out of the body. Once it breaks through, even if I want to take it, it will be difficult. Guan Yu said cautiously, although his angry cultivation was one level higher than the other parties, but looking at the huge axe, he was also extremely chilled, and what he hated the most was this kind of guy with natural divine power, and the advantage of the same level was too great. Chen Shi's eyes couldn't help but twitch, so fierce. Nima, Hua Zhong can be killed in a few moves. Really think of himself as Lu Bu. Chen Shi looked at Yuan Shao carefully, and finally couldn't help but sigh. More than 80% of Pan Feng was pitted to death by Yuan Shao. According to Guan Yu, Pan Feng is already a top master. With the future battle and the master, it is possible to take that step at any time. There is no such thing as not progressing in the war years. As long as you are alive, you will progress, and no longer progress can only mean that you are already dead. Moreover, Hua Zhong killed several people in a row, and his heart was aroused with pride, and he couldn't help but look down on the coalition army, and the 500,000-strong army didn't even have a strong officer, and he could clean it up alone. Sitting on the horse, Hua Zhong looked at the big tent opposite. He could feel that the barrier above his head was constantly weakening as his courage grew. He hoped that he could challenge Lu Bu again. Even if he was defeated by a move, he also wanted to see the power like a god. It's coming. Hua Zhong stopped thinking and watched a black mang shooting towards him, and the pressure that came to his face made him cheer up, leading hundreds of people to challenge the coalition army. Hua Zhong was ready to die, either go one step further or die. Chapter 12 I can level up if I kill you. In fact, this chapter was originally called, There is an impulse called killing you to level up, but what you don't know is that the other party feels the same way. Hua Zhong, the title of the first brave general of the Shiliang army, has been lost, but his dignity makes him have to challenge. Even if the opponent is Lu Bu, he dares to raise his sword. It's a pity that I was addicted to the title of the first brave general in Shiliang and couldn't extricate myself, and when I saw Lu Bu's bravery, it was too late, and I had passed the best period of promotion. Now let me use my life to win. Hua Zhong's eyes froze. He already felt that layer of barrier, and if he went further, he would be qualified to challenge again. No matter how fierce the other party's momentum was, Hua Zhong still laughed wildly. Another person is dying. The thief will be beheaded. Pan Feng shouted. The momentum of the front line, which was almost stronger than him, did not make Hua Zhong afraid. The front line of life and death could only break through. He had passed the best time to improve, and if he wanted to go further, he could only feel life and death on the battlefield. Go to death. Hua Zhong shouted violently, and a cloud of red light suddenly burst out of his body, bombarding Pan Feng's big axe. Boom! With a roar, the place where the two horses intersected was bombarded with a big pit. Hua Zhong felt the tiger's mouth was hot. His eyes emitted a fierce light. Staring at Pan Feng, he had a feeling that he could upgrade by killing the other party. Similarly, Pan Feng received a much smaller counterattack, but after this blow turned around, he also felt an urge to upgrade by killing the opponent. Both of them felt a heat in their hearts, and they both understood what it meant to go further, and the eyes they looked at each other became a feeling of a hunter looking at their prey, but God knows who is the prey and who is the hunter. Boom! There was another roar, followed by another explosion. The two of them had fought dozens of times in these few seconds, and he Hua Zhong had been opened by Pan Feng's axe wind from his left shoulder to his right waist. In just a few seconds, he clearly felt his progress. He could guarantee that as long as he killed the other party, he would definitely be able to upgrade. One blow determines victory. Pan Feng said coldly, I don't know why the crotch BMW, which has always been in tune with him, is always a little sluggish this time, but he doesn't plan to pursue it. One blow. As long as he hits, he can kill Hua Zhong, and with just one blow, he can step into that realm like a god. Hua Zhong didn't reply, just held the knife tightly. His body was red, and there was even a slight boil. Kill! Hua Zhong shouted violently and rushed towards Pan Feng with a determination to die, while Pan Feng prepared to behead Hua Zhong with a sneer. At the moment when the two handed over, the green-maned horse, who was very in tune with Pan Feng, became a good teammate of the Three Kingdoms, and the horse lost its front hooves, and its legs were so weak, Hua Zhong handed over the knife and beheaded Pan Feng. Turning the horse around, Hua Zhong looked at Pan Feng coldly. The breath on his body began to boil and burn. Killing the other party was indeed upgraded, and the huge wound on his chest and abdomen also quickly scabbed and grew new flesh. Slowly, this feeling calmed down, and Hua Zhong, who was originally fierce, became almost an ordinary person, but when he met his eyes, it felt like he was looking at a tiger. Is this a higher level of power? A layer of blade clearly appeared on Hua Zhong's big knife, and with a wave of the knife, a huge fire blade flew towards the opposite coalition tent with a sonic boom. No wonder Lu Bu said that even if it is tens of thousands of people, it is just a matter of one sentence. He didn't joke. Dong! With a loud bang, the gate of the barracks flew out. The coalition army on the opposite side listened. I am Dong Shanghua sitting down the pioneer Hua Zhong. Surrender as soon as possible, otherwise the killing will go in and not leave a single one. Hua Zhong took a deep breath, and then shouted at the coalition army. This time he could guarantee that his voice would cover dozens of miles. Report. When the herald came in, everyone in the main tent knew the battle situation, and everyone knew that this goods had won with a voice as loud as Hua Zhong. General Pan was beheaded by Hua Zhong several times under the horse, and then Hua Zhong smashed the camp gate with a knife from 100 meters away. The herald said with a fearful face, What? This time Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, Xiahou brothers, and Yuan Shao and others all stood up, but they understood what kind of power it was, and they smashed the camp gate with a move from 100 meters away, which was already the final stage of the warrior. But because of this, Yuan Shao felt that he was so stupid. If he knew that Hua Zhong was so fierce, he shouldn't feed Pan Feng's horse medicine. Maybe he could resist a few more moves, so that Hua Zhong was injured a little. Now Pan Feng is dead. Who will deal with this kind of master? What Yuan Shao didn't know was that if he didn't feed Pan Feng's horse, he would now meet Pan Feng, who was experiencing internal energy. Soon after some whispers, everyone understood Hua Zhong's current level, which can be said to be the top master in the world, and one person in a bad mood can kill the existence of 18,000 people. Who dares to fight in Huaxiong? Yuan Shao asked loudly, but now everyone lowered their heads and did not speak. That was the top master who was angry from the inside out. To go up is to die. If my general Yang Liangwen is here, why be afraid of Hua Zhong? Yuan Shao angrily rebuked, but this means that Yang Liangwen ugly in this time period is just Pan Feng Huaxiong's level, and going up to fight with the current Hua Zhong is also a food delivery, and Huaxiong's standard supporting role. Big brother! The two Xiahou brothers shouted lightly, but unfortunately they were pulled by Cao Cao. This time is not a desperate time. Hua Zhong is so fierce, if he misses, it will be a big loss. Second master. Damn. When Chen Shi just wanted to hold Guan Yu down and tell him not to go up, Guan Yu stood up. I am willing to go, Guan Yu said proudly. Yuan Shao looked at Liu Bei, seeing Liu Bei nodding. He had no grudge against Liu Bei. If he was sent to death like this, it would be bad to blame him on his head. But since Liu Bei was willing, Yuan Shao was also happy that someone would lie down with a gun. Cao Mengda stared at Guan Yu's beard, with a look of envy, and he didn't know how Guan Yu was working hard, but he pointed at Guan Yu's beard, and Cao Cao went up and toasted a glass of wine. Maybe it would be a farewell wine. Please drink this cup before going, Cao Cao said with a smile. Let's pour it out. I'll come when I go, Guan Yu said very arrogantly. Well, after staying with Guan Yu for so long, Chen Shi also understood that Guan Yu was not very good at talking and often offended people, but this tone, this look, in the eyes of others, was completely arrogant. If Hua Zhong was cut down later, then there was nothing to say. People are qualified to be so arrogant. If they were cut by Hua Zhong, now no matter how arrogant they are, it is a joke. Leader, would you like to go out and take a look? My second brother will defeat Hua Zhong. After saying that, Liu Bei bowed and walked towards the outside of the tent. Now Liu Bei is a small prince all the way, and he also has a bit of prestige when he speaks, so naturally everyone followed him. Of course, Cao Cao was holding a wine glass. Moreover, Guan Yu rode a Shiliang horse and walked towards the camp gate, not increasing the speed of the horse as soon as he went out like others, and wished he could break the speed of sound directly. Chapter 13 Guan Eri's 3 Knives. Or, third brother, what do you think the second master thinks, why he rides so slowly? Chen Shi stabbed Zhong Fei in the waist and said, the second brother is really here, look at it, Hua Zhong will undoubtedly be defeated. The second brother's every step accumulated momentum, and when he was 100 steps away from Hua Zhong, the second brother accumulated enough momentum, and no one in the world could stop it. Zhong Fei said cautiously. He had never seen his second brother so cautious several times. As Zhong Fei expected, Guan Yu was accumulating momentum. After all, Hua Zhong was already a top master. If he fell into close combat, even he could not kill a top master with internal and external qi in a short period of time, so to win cleanly, only kill Hua Zhong within 3 or 5 moves. Hua Zhong stared at the swaying Guan Yu and sneered. He could hardly feel the danger on Guan Yu, and there was no one in the coalition army. 100 steps away, Guan Yu looked at Hua Zhong opposite. He was indeed a top master with internal and external energy, but unfortunately, his qi was condensed and unreal, and he was quite far from him. Hua Zhong, remember that it was Guan Yu and Guan Yunchang who killed you. Guan Yu shouted violently, and then a green orn swept towards Hua Zhong with a burst all the way, wrapped in sonic boom clouds. Boom! With a loud noise, Hua Zhong felt something was wrong when Guan Yu flew over, and slashed fiercely towards the place where he felt the most dangerous, and the huge force directly beat him tens of meters with people and horses. His hands were numb, his chest was tight, but without waiting for Hua Zhong to adjust, a huge blue light smashed in his direction again. Without the slightest concealment, perhaps for Guan Yu, the roughest method could defeat the other party. Concealment was worthless. Anyway, horizontal and vertical was a matter of a few knives. Open it for me. Hua Zhong mustered up all his strength. The whole person seemed to be burning in flames, and the huge red fire blade blasted towards Guan Yu's cyan light blade. But unfortunately it could not stop Guan Yu's huge light blade at all, like a wave smashing into a giant rock on the seashore, shattering. Bell! A loud noise shook the tinnitus of people hundreds of meters away, and they couldn't help but turn on their respective protections. The tiger's mouth cracked, the blood from the corners of his mouth continued to flow, and the iron sword that had followed him for many years also cracked at this moment, and the speed of body healing could not keep up with the speed of destruction. I'm Hua Zhong. Hua Zhong shouted violently, squeezing every trace of his own strength, and the entire Sisui Pass was in front of a fire, and the originally virtual but not condensed fire blade began to gradually solidify at this moment. Unfortunately, these are of little value, and the huge cyan light blade swung by Guan Yu is still like a water balloon, shattering Hua Zhong's desperate fight into a streamer, and slashing at Hua Zhong inexhaustibly. At the moment when the light blade came to his body, Hua Zhong's eyes flashed with a trace of decline. He had not yet challenged Lu Bu, although at this moment he had understood, the gap between himself and Lu Bu was still like a moat. When Guan Yu was about to cut Hua Zhong with the huge light blade, he suddenly thought of what Chen Shi said, and changed it to a racket and directly slapped Hua Zhong out like a tennis ball. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Guan Yu was left alone on the battlefield, and Hua Zhong, whose life and death were unknown hundreds of meters away, continued to maintain a swaying speed. Guan Yu stretched out his hand to lift Hua Zhong, and then turned his horse around. Fortunately, it did not dishonor the mission. Guan Yu threw down Hua Zhong and let him be tied up. Half squinting his eyes and bowing to Yuan Shao, Guan Yu stretched out his hand to pick up the glass of wine prepared by Cao Mengda and drank it. It was so hot, but fortunately, the second master himself couldn't see the red face. Everyone shouted in their hearts, too ferocious. In the past, literati like Kong Rong who read the historical records felt that Xiang Wang should have been blown out, but after seeing Guan Yu today, I thought about the description of the historical records. Maybe there is no exaggeration, it is purely realistic. The leader can now take advantage of the enemy's lack of preparation to capture Sisui Pass. Cao Cao was the first to react. Now is not the time to be shocked by Guan Yu's force. Being reminded by Cao Cao, everyone immediately reacted. Hua Zhong's matter was left behind, and the troops started to operate, and while Sisui Pass had not yet reacted, they rushed up directly to take Sisui Pass. Yuan Shao, who was sitting in Sisui Pass, was in a good mood, and took Sisui Pass in just a while, as expected of his proper command. Liu Bei, who was sitting among the crowd, became the protagonist this time, and came over to praise Guan Yu for his bravery and invincibility, but he was the tiger general of the world. Of course, he was more envious, and he wanted to dig the foot of the wall when he had the opportunity. At this time, Liu Bei was fighting with all the princes under Chen Shi's consistent indoctrination, and even a fool could see that in addition to Kong Rong and Gong Sanzon, the others were all purposeful, especially the scorching light in Yuan Shu's eyes almost burned people. After eating, drinking, bragging, and farting, and complimenting each other, Liu Bei returned to his camp with Guanzhong and Chen Shi. This time no one dared to underestimate Liu Bei. This Han family still has some foundation, At least this kind of heroism is still in the hands of the Han family. Back in the big tent, Chen Shi drank some sobering soup groggily, looking at Guan Yu, who still had a cold and arrogant face, and half squinted his eyes and asked, "Second master, where is Hua Zhong?" "That's a top master. If we recover, we can't help it if we don't have a master like you to watch over us." A burst of steam came out of the second master's body, and the whole person came to his senses, not to mention whether Hua Zhong can wake up. Even if he wakes up, his current internal qi is suppressed by me in the Dantian. There is no room for turning back on the internal qi, and it is impossible to have the previous strength without the help of outsiders. "Oh, that's right. Remember to keep an eye on him. It would be great if you could persuade him to surrender." Chen Shi tried his best to mobilize his mental strength to make his thinking active, and began to arrange the things after that. Hua Zhong is indeed majestic. In terms of strength, he is already very strong, but unfortunately. Guan Yu's eyes opened slightly, and he said with some sighs, "Huh." Chen Shi looked at Guan Yu with a strange face, not finding that Guan Yu still had a boastful hobby. "Zichuan, the second brother is right. Hua Zhong is indeed quite strong. If it is a regular style of play, the second brother will have to win 70 or 80 rounds to seize the opportunity, but unfortunately Hua Zhong, that fool, is too careless." Zhong Fei shouted loudly. "Indeed, Hua Zhong is a good opponent, but he misestimated my strength. I have been able to perfectly restrain my breath, momentum, those 3 knives. The first knife is 20% heavier than my normal, the second knife is 30% heavier than the first knife, and the third knife is 30% heavier." Guan Yu rarely showed a smile on his face. This is his mastery at the bottom of the box, and he is invincible in slashing people. Chapter 14 Yuan Shao went crazy. Under the joint explanation of Liu, Guan, and Zhong, Chen Shi finally figured out why Guan Yu cleaned up Hua Zhong's 3 knives this time and solved it. Not that Guan Yu's strength far exceeded Hua Zhong's. In addition to Hua Zhong's carelessness, he never thought that someone at the same level would break out with a power far beyond the same level. Originally, they were both 2 people with a degree of internal qi leaving the body, even if Guan Yu was stronger, but did not reach the peak degree of internal qi leaving the body, to say that defeating Hua Zhong was probably a matter of 100 moves, but to kill, as long as the opponent wanted to run Guan Yu, it was difficult to stop, but Guan Yu broke out with a power that far exceeded this level. Especially the final blow directly made Hua Zhong have a feeling of facing Lu Bu. But Sichuan, don't be so surprised. In fact, it is difficult to progress without war to our extent, so when we are bored, we each create our own tricks. Zhong Fei saw that Chen Shi was surprised, so he told the truth. In fact, the second brother has a more fierce trick, but unfortunately that trick is too powerful, and our horses are not good. According to the second brother's estimation to bear that kind of power, the BMW under the crotch at least needs to have the strength to refine Qi into a gang. You must know that it is a horse. I have seen not many horses with the initial condensation of internal Qi for so many years. Zhong Fei directly revealed Guan Yu's old background with a big mouth, but Guan Yu didn't care, and when it came to horses, both of them sighed. "Hey, tell me, how fierce that move is." Chen Shi saw the 2 sighing and pulled the topic in another direction. Guan Yu opened his eyes, had nothing to say, and motioned for Zhong Fei. It's an upgraded version of today's second brother's move. It is estimated that because the second brother moves too fast, no one notices that the second brother's attack is actually a straight line. This is the disadvantage of this trick. You can only go in a straight line. In fact, because the speed is too strong, the second brother can only go in the direction of force. Zhong Fei began to explain Guan Yu's trick to Chen Shi, and he didn't even hide the biggest drawback. Huh. And so on. Chen Shi thought about it. Nima, the smoke and dust was so big at that time, who knew that the second master did not walk in a straight line, and then think about the scene at that time. It is estimated that everyone was focusing on the second master's huge light blade, as well as Hua Zhong's struggle, who would pay attention to how the second master passed. Thinking about it again, the second master's posture in the past, and the state after stopping, it is estimated that more than half of the people think that the second master is so lazy. As for the acceleration of that moment, everyone ignored it. Well, you can only walk in a straight line. The power and speed are too great. Once deflected, I will be injured first if I can't control it well, and the horse under the crotch will definitely die. Guan Yu nodded and said, "Oh, horses are very important if you say that." Chen Shi hurriedly wrote it down. Second master, you will definitely have a horse that you can fix casually in the future. Chen Shi has already marked the red rabbit as the second master. As for the second brother's other move, it is actually to accumulate momentum, strength, and all aspects to the peak, and then slash forward violently. It's very simple. According to the second brother's estimate, if no one stops it, this move can even smash a 10-meter thick small city wall. Zhong Fei saw that Chen Shi was puzzled and added a power assessment. Chen Shi was frightened. Nima, the city wall can be shattered. This is the power of humans? The 10-meter thick city wall, cut it with a knife. The world has breath. The city wall has become tough, pure granite structure, 10-meter thick city wall. Second master, it will depend on you to attack the city in the future. Just when Chen Shi was thinking wildly, Guan Yu spoke. Sichuan, first of all, I can only use this trick once, and secondly, I don't have a mount that can withstand the power I exert this kind of power, and this power is only estimated. Just when Guan Yu said this, Chen Shi's brain had already begun to splice logically, and soon with a flash of inspiration, Chen Shi understood what was going on. It was purely a heavy sword without a blade, and it was a coincidence. The Red Rabbit must have it. It is estimated that Guan Yu in the original history also had this trick, but the power is even more terrifying after being amplified in this era. Chen Shi was ruthless in his heart. He had already guessed how the two unlucky guys of Yang Liang and Wen Chou died, and they were definitely killed by this trick. After all, according to the development of history, by that point in time, Yang Liang Wen Chou is estimated to be already a top master who is released from the outside. But what can the top master do? Directly attack to this extent? It is estimated that in addition to the few people who are prepared, no matter how well others are prepared, it is a knife and two. The second master's spirit and external forces are condensed and released together. It is estimated that Lu Bu can eat a trick when he is not ready. The best horse during this period must be the Red Rabbit, and according to what Guan Yu Zhongfei said, maybe, the Red Rabbit is really a super horse that refins Qi into a gang. This is already a monster in horse skin. A horse inexplicably has this level of strength. According to the proportion, this horse is estimated to be able to use the speed of sound as its own high-speed strolling speed. Dongzhuo is really not easy to catch it. On the other hand, not long after the coalition forces took Sisui Pass, Dongzhuo received the battle report, and immediately overturned the table, smashed the plate, and frightened the originally frightened courtiers to death, and then staged the drama of killing Taifu Yuan Huai at the dinner table. Looking back, more than 1,000 heads were sent to the coalition camp, and suddenly Yuan Shao, who was still happy, spurted out a mouthful of blood. Unlike Yuan Shu, the legitimate son, Yuan Huai was his really most important elder. Dongzhuo, I am incompatible with you. Yuan Shao's eyes looked in the direction of Luoyang with scarlet eyes, and the whole person exuded a cold momentum, and Yuan Shao, who dared to question Dongzhuo with his sword, came back. Give me Yang Liang Wen Chou to come to Sisui Pass. I must kill Dongzhuo. Yuan Shao roared in his camp. The disaster did not affect his family. Yuan Shao did not persuade his uncle to go to him at the beginning. In addition to his uncle's unwillingness to do so, there was also a reason for this, and now the reality made him understand that conspiracies and tricks had no value in the face of strength. The soldiers are out of Surabaya. Take the tiger prison. Yuan Shao, who is burdened with a blood feud, has become much sharper than before, but because of this, his control over the entire coalition army is also much stronger, and he handles everything fairly and justly. In this case, even Yuan Shu does not dare to look at Yuan Shao, and also makes everyone understand that Yuan Shao is not relying on the family's grace, but a hero with real talent and practical learning. Xuandagong, what do you think of Yuan Benchu? Even Chen Shi was shocked by the current Yuan Benchu. Yuan Shao, who can be called a pillar of the southern sky by Cao Cao in history, is not a joke. There is indeed something extraordinary. If Chen Shi knew that this goods would be old and confused in a few years, become indecisive, and play balance, maybe now he will have to mess with this guy. The hero of the world is unfortunately indecisive. It may be that he was familiar with Chen Shi, and Liu Bei didn't hide it too much, and told the truth directly. Yes, it's a little indecisive, and sometimes it's a little stubborn and self-willed. It's not a very good monarch object, but the foundation is very good, and the advantage of the family lies in this point. Chen Shi sighed and said, if Cao Cao had been placed in Yuan Shao's position, it would have been unified long ago. Sichuan is from the Chen family in Yingchuan. Can you know something about Yingchuan talents? Liu Bei knocked on the side and said, for Chen Shi's current situation, Liu Bei can also see that the other party has already boarded his boat, but he himself has not noticed. According to what Chen Shi taught him, Chen Sichuan is a little dumbfounded on some things. Yingchuan Chen family. What a big name. I just put my name under it. To be honest, what is the place of my home? Except for the vague memory of when I was a child, there is almost none. As for Yingchuan talents, I was sick and weak before, rarely communicated with people. I didn't know very well. As for the famous and surnamed capable people I know, but Xuandagong didn't have to report too much hope. Chen Shi sighed and said, he didn't have the slightest nonsense. The Chen family is too big, and Yingchuan is too big. Chapter 15 Dongzhuo's War Potential. Chen Shi sighed and began to introduce Liu Bei to the ruthless people of Yingchuan. There are some people who are not famous, but any of these people are enough to support a prince as long as the monarch delegates power. Chen Shi's biggest advantage is that he knows the future situation of everyone, and also knows the ability of all people with names and surnames. After all, these people have been tested by history, proving themselves with merit on the battlefield, or proving themselves with their abilities in the rear. Also because of this, Chen Shi knew very well that Cao Cao's earliest drama was Zhizai, and the subsequent 5 schemes were probably not easy to dig. Under Chen Shi's introduction, Liu Bei's eyes lit up. Whether it was Chen Shi's evaluation of Zhang Yu's political strategy or Zhang Yu's affirmation of Zhang Yu's strategy, or the analysis of Guo Jia's imaginative way of thinking, as well as Chen Yu's ruthless taboos, Liu Bei's eyes were opened. As long as these people were really as capable as Chen Shi said, any of them had a platform that was enough to turn the world upside down. Sichuan seems to know these people very well. Liu Bei smiled and said he really hoped to get these people, but unfortunately after Liu Bei listened to Chen Shi's words, these individuals, it is estimated that Zhang Yu's uncle and nephew can have some hope. Of course, he also knows that this hope is also pressed on the fact that he is a member of the Han family, and he also needs to have a piece of territory. Well, basically, I have some impressions of the ability in this world. To be honest, Dong Zhuo is actually very hopeful of defeating the princes of the world, but unfortunately his heart is too big, he has lost his way, and he is no longer the Shiliang warrior before, and he has been fascinated by the life of Luoyang. Chen Shi first had a hint of pride on his face, and then sighed a little. Dong Zhuo actually has this kind of strength? Liu Bei raised his eyebrows and said in disbelief. Yes, he has this kind of strength, he has the world's best cavalry, he has the world's best generals, he has 2 civil servants who can rank in the top 10 in the world, and even one can rank in the top 3. And he also has the danger of Shaohan Han, with the momentum of Western Qin. If he is not lost by the prosperity of Guangdong, slowly plotting it, he may not be able to swallow the world like the original Qin dynasty, even if Dong Zhuo is now intoxicated, but as long as he wakes up, he still retains the ability to cook the lost deer. Chen Shi said with emotion. According to the current strength of Dong Zhuo and the plan before entering Luoyang, his ability can be ranked in the top 10 even if it is calculated from the Yellow Turban Rebellion to the fall of Western Shu in the nearly 100 years. But after entering Luoyang, Li Yu seems to have begun to enter a period of chaos, and his wisdom has plummeted. You must know that Li Yu supported Dong Zhuo from a warrior in Shiliang to the strongest warlord at the end of the Eastern Han dynasty, and even when the princes of the 18th route attacked Dong Zhuo had the ability to exterminate the heroes of the world. The most important thing is that Chen Shi knows a little bit that this guy has seen through the serial scheme in history and told Dong Zhuo directly, but Dong Zhuo ignored it. He had already expected Dong Zhuo to die. When Lu Bu killed Dong Zhuo and wanted to find Li Yu, he had already run out of Luoyang and followed Li Ji to mix in, and then when Cao Cao cleaned up Li Ji, this guy disappeared inexplicably. As for the other one, Jia Shu, this is also a general under Dong Zhuo. He is not a certain nameless chief clerk mentioned in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. You must know that Li Yu and Guo Sai are both generals with 100,000 Shiliang soldiers, and they woke up under Jia Shu's words, and listened to Jia Shu's command without saying a word. If they hadn't already known Jia Shu's ability, they would be so good at talking. Liu Bei twisted a pimple in his brows. The world's first elite, the world's first general, the top 10 strategists in the world. One can even have the top 3, the danger of Shaohan Han, and the momentum of Western Qin. Every time he read a sentence, Liu Bei unconsciously squeezed his brows tighter. Not to mention the world's first elite, let's say the world's first general, who dares to admit this title, as for the top 10 civil officials in the world, who evaluated it. The world's #1 military general can soon prove that as for the top 10 strategists in the world, Xuanda thinks about where Dong Zhuo rose, how long it took, and how much power he has now. Chen Shi smiled bitterly. It was really difficult to answer this question. It could only rely on facts. Liu Bei thought about it carefully and nodded. Indeed, from a Shiliang warrior to a prime minister who is now overpowering the heroes, it is just like this to stay in the marquis, but it is a pity to commit to a thief. Chen Shi rolled his eyes and didn't speak. He didn't approve of this. If Li Yu overturned them, when the time came, who was the thief? Who was the thief? It was not and must be. As for the other strategist I mentioned, his strength lies in his clever schemes, and he has no strategy. This one is very easy to win over. As long as Dong Zhuo is dead, someone can make him feel safe to win over. Chen Shi thought about it and still mentioned Jia Shu's matter. This is relatively easy to win over, but you must have enough strength, otherwise, you will not be able to see it, you will not feel insecure, and you will never mix with you. No strategy. Liu Bei looked at Chen Shi in surprise. This is the highest evaluation for a strategist, just such an evaluation in Liu Bei's opinion. As long as it can be achieved, then Chen Shi's previous evaluation is not excessive. Well, there is no strategy. Whether it is a small strategy or a general trend, everything will be successful. Chen Shi sighed and said, it can be said that the strategists who have entered the WTO now basically have no one who can compare with him. Well, Zhu Gong, who was recently recruited by Han Zhizhou Wenjie, can be compared with him. Chen Shi originally wanted to say that there was no one who could compare with Jia Shu in this time period, but later he thought that after Pan Feng's death, Han Fu recruited Zhu Shou, who stayed in Zhizhou. From this point of view, Han Fu's foundation is still very solid. No wonder Yuan Shao wants to grab it, and then think that Zhong He is also under his hands. Chen Shi can't help but have a little hot eyes, indeed solid. Liu Bei looked at Han Fu's big tent unnaturally. He had a good conversation with Zhu Shou, but he didn't expect Zhu Shou to be so rich. What about you? What about Sichuan? Liu Bei saw that Chen Shi had said a lot of other people, but did not mention himself, so he asked curiously. If we talk about strategy, I am completely talking on paper, and if we want to talk about political strategy, we are completely whimsical. and as for the real ability under our hands, there are not many of them. Chen Shi thought about himself, and finally said helplessly, "Ha ha ha, why should Sichuan be so humble? And remember that Sichuan's plan since entering my camp will definitely be successful. Why should he be so stage-frightened?" Liu Bei looked at Chen Shi with a helpless face for a moment, and then laughed. In his opinion, Chen Shi is now just a lack of confidence caused by the introversion caused by the teenager. As long as he proves that he is strong enough, he will naturally be confident. For this aspect, Liu Bei is more confident than Chen Shi, at least in his opinion. The current Chen Shi is really true and what he plans to do. Chapter 16 Gongsun Zon and Liu Yu. Chen Shi tugged at the corners of his mouth and did not answer. This is not a question of self-confidence or not. He is no longer confident in the context of the general trend, and he really has no way to deal with the details and the ability of those people. Seeing that Chen Shi didn't speak, Liu Bei didn't continue to say anything. For Liu Bei now, he has moved towards the goal he was young, and Chen Shi's series of arrangements gave him a lot of confidence. Report. A herald ran towards Liu Bei. "What's the matter?" Liu Bei raised his eyes and asked. General Gongsun allocated 300 white horses from the righteousness, and allocated another 300 horses, asking the general to hand it over. The herald said loudly, "It's really a local tyrant." Chen Shi said in a low voice. Yesterday, Liu Bei's soldiers who attacked Sisui Pass had some damage, and Gongsun Zon made up for himself and then transferred a team of men and horses to Liu Bei, for Gongsun Zon, who still belongs to the local tyrants, cavalry, or something, except for Dongzhua, he is the most, and he has won a lot of good horses in the battle with Xianbei and Wu Huan all year round. Gongsun Bourgouet. Liu Bei sighed. He now has no place to repay Gongsun Bourgouet in the slightest. He can only remember if you are rich, don't forget each other. People have been sent to the camp. There is nothing to say. Accept it. Sooner or later we will be developed, and don't forget the friendship at this time. Chen Shi smiled and said, he admired Gongsun Zon's behavior, this pure nationalist. This series of friendships made Chen Shi very good. You must know that Liu Bei is now just a small deflated 3. Others don't know. Gongsun Zon can't know. But he has never looked down on Liu Bei because of Liu Bei's identity. Even if the identity of the two has grown from the beginning of the classmates to a governor and a commoner, Gongsun Zon did not look down on Liu Bei because of this, but still maintained the original friendship. General Gongsuan's subordinate Jubua saw General Liu. A fair-faced and beardless general saw Liu Bei coming over and bowed respectfully. Excuse me, General Gongsun is fine." Liu Bei stretched out his hand to help the other party up, and from the other party's movements, he understood that this Jubua was also the target of the handover, and he was also a good cavalry general. The Hu people in the north are going to invade again. Last year's heavy snowfall, starving many people to death. The Hu people may be going south in the spring. General Gongsun hesitated whether he wanted to return to help. He was a little worried about Yu Ju. Jubua's answer was very clear, and I think it was Gongsun Zon who asked him to bring a message. Liu Bei was still thinking about what was going on. Chen Shi said, if General Gongsun is not at ease, he can go back to Yu Ju first, and the matter of Luoyang's execution of Dong can be handed over to Xuan de Gong. As for the problem of Liu Gongboren in Yu Ju, it can be solved by Dong Zhua. Gongsun Zon didn't see what the form of the coalition army was, but the people of Yu Ju he cared about. When he heard that the northern Hu people were going to invade, he thought of going back to Yu Ju to beat the scum to death. Unlike the vast majority of people in the Han dynasty, Gongsun Zon did not have the word Huairo in his eyes. General Baima Tsongi is completely a great reputation from the blood of the Hu people. Also, this is also the reason why Gongsun Zon and Yu Ju Mu Liu Yu almost fought. You must know that Liu Yu is an orthodox Han clan member, and in the Han dynasty, you must pay attention to the face of the Liu family. But in the end Liu Yu was directly killed by Gongsun Zon in 193 AD. Liu Yu, as the governor of the ruling party, can be regarded as one of the most capable ministers in the late Eastern Han dynasty, governing the barren land of Yu Ju to the point where it can compete with Jizhou, but he has a very bad place, that is, Huairo. For the Hu people Huairo, Yu Ju is well governed, but because of his Hu people's Huairo, the people's wives are separated. Gongsun Zon pays attention to the fact that only dead Hu people are good Hu people. Liu Yu pays attention to turning the Hu people into his own people. Naturally the two are at odds with each other, and they break up unhappily, and in the end they draw their swords against each other, and naturally the general Gongsun Zon defeats Liu Yu. As for the later Yuan Shao fighting against Gongsun Zon, there were always a large number of Hu people who came to help. Also because under the banner of revenge for Liu Yu, from this point of view, Liu Yu did have some prestige among the Hu people. It can be said that if Liu Yu hadn't pulled Gongsun Zon's hind legs in Yu Ju, the Hu people would have been driven out of the north of the Great Wall by Gongsun Zon, and even Gongsun Zon could have crossed Changbai Mountain to clean up the Hu people in Bingju. Chen Shi's current idea is to let Dong Zhui get Liu Yu back to Luoyang, and give a high-ranking official for the sake of Gongsun Zon's departure, at least higher than Liu Yu, so that he can withstand Liu Yu's hind legs in the general sense, and turn back to Yu Ju. And it is definitely not a problem for Gongsun Zon, who let go of his hands and feet, kicked the Hu people in the north of the Great Wall to death. As for going back to his hometown to clean up the Hu people now, and withdrawing from the 18th root princes, is it detrimental to the righteousness? He who said that he withdrew, General Gongsun is back, he is going to defend the country and guard the frontier, and the soldiers of the King of Qin are still in the coalition army, handed over to Xuandagong to command, who said to withdraw. General Gongsun only had to return to Yuju to guard the frontier because of his own duties. Chen Shi explained to the Jubwa in a long-winded manner, only to see that the other party's eyes were getting brighter and brighter. It is difficult for the people in the Central Plains to imagine the misery of the people on the frontier, which is why Gongsun has such prestige in the north, and this is also why Lu Bu's character is very despicable, but the children and soldiers of Bingju, including Zhong Liao and Jiao Shun, did not turn their backs on him, which is also why Lu Bu did not set foot in Bingju many times after leaving Bingju. Zichuan, isn't it a bit bad to do this? After the Jubwa left, Liu Bei asked with a hint of hesitation on his face. There's nothing wrong with that, seriously. General Gongsun probably wants to go back very much now, and after staying in Yuju for several years, Xuandagong should understand General Gongsun's attitude towards the Hu people very well, and also understand Liu Yozhou's attitude towards General Gongsun. Chen Shi smiled and said, Chen Shi can guarantee that according to Gongsun way of thinking, if someone can let Liu Yu not pull him back, he will never care about such a little stain. For this kind of person, the above commendation is not as important as the people's rice bowl. After all, in history, this master has done the above strict orders not to attack, but when he saw the displaced people hiding in Liaoxi County, this master finally couldn't help but send troops. After beating all the invading Hu people back, he turned around and killed Liu Yu, who couldn't bear it, and then no one pulled back, and he also heard that the Hu people were plundering again, but the more troublesome things came down. Gongsun was not as sincere as Liu Yu in the governance of Yuju, and he immediately met the ruler of the world and was blinded. Chapter 17 Use your fists to influence you. Or, after listening to the explanation of the Jubwa, Gongsun suddenly understood. Without saying a word, he drew half of the soldiers to Liu Bei, expressing his willingness to let Liu Bei watch the scene, and he had to go back when he had something to deal with, and the matter of asking for Dong was fully handed over to Liu Bei. After giving Liu Bei a few troops, Gongsun resigned from Yuan Shao, and returned to Yuju with the 5,000 white horses he brought back, and he planned to make the Hu people understand that those who plunder must die. Also after knowing the news, Dongzhu followed Li Ayu's suggestion and added Gongsun as the general of Zhenbei, which was just right to restrain Liu Yu, but did not transfer Liu Yu back to Luoyang, and 80% wanted to use Liu Yu's fame to pull Gongsun's hind legs, and because the two sides had a lot of things to provoke, especially when the military suppressed political affairs. The activities in the shadows were more destructive than on the surface. Liu Bei, who held 8,000 cavalry, is now much more confident, and I have to say that he has seen blood, and the Yuju soldiers who fought against the Hu people in the north of the Great Wall are far stronger than those requisitioned from the Central Plains. Gongsun hurriedly left all the infantry before leaving, while the elite White Horse Reicha servants only left 1,000 for Liu Bei to fill the scene. After all, the strangulation of the Hu people in the north of the Great Rebellion relied more on cavalry, and if you could bring one more, you could put more pressure on the Hu people. General Gongsun is gone. It's really resolute. Chen Shi sighed and said, he walked too fast, he hadn't woken up yet, the other party left, and no one came to wake him up. Gongsun left, and before leaving, he entrusted his rights to Liu Bei, so that Liu Bei, who originally had a little right to speak, suddenly found that his voice had become greater, and most importantly, his power had become stronger. In the next few days, under the command of Yuan Shao, the coalition forces continued to attack Hulao Pass, but unfortunately no matter how Yang Liang Wenchou jumped, he was stunned and did not take Hulao Pass, and even the second master and Zhong Fei shot together had no effect. Xu Rong indifferently dragged the 500,000 coalition troops, and also made everyone understand that personal force sometimes cannot solve a battle, although you can kill more than 10,000 people alone. Zichuan, how long do you think it will take us to break the Tiger Prison Pass? Liu Bei stood in the distance and looked at the Tiger Prison Pass from a distance. If Xu Rong doesn't leave, don't want to take the Tiger Prison, Dongzhu's most promising person to become a handsome talent is the one opposite, and he seems to have mastered some special skills. Chen Shi said helplessly, Xu Rong is still very strong. After all, he overturned Cao Cao one-on-one in history, and with the enthusiasm of the coalition army, it is really not easy to win Xu Rong, who occupies the geographical advantage. Hey, it's a pity that he is such a good general. Liu Bei's hobby for talents awakened again, and Chen Shi could only roll his eyes at this. But don't worry, this guy will be transferred to the rear soon. Our offensive will make Dongzhu come to the Tiger Prison sooner or later, and this time Xuande Guild will see the world's #1 general. Chen Shi looked at Xu Rong standing under the city gate tower. He could feel that Xu Rong's soldiers cooperated much better than the coalition army, and even a master like Guan Eri could be surrounded by more than a dozen elite soldiers, and then named by dozens of bows and arrows, and he was also injured a little for this. Hey, while the generals have become stronger, the soldiers have also become stronger, and the importance of battle formations and cues is constantly amplifying. Once they are scattered, a top general like the second master may be able to defeat more than 10,000 troops all the way, but once the opponent's battle formation and cue and the command of the generals are excellent, even the second master may be under the siege of hundreds of soldiers. Chen Shi looked at the Tiger prison pass while sorting out the information he had recently obtained. The power of the world battle formation and the cue, that is, the group, was amplified, and the effect of the same generals was also amplified. Hey, the world's #1 general, promise a name. If someone dares to claim that he will definitely be in trouble, I am very interested in seeing how Dongzhu's world's #1 military general convinces the public. Liu Bei shook his head. He was very interested in the world's #1 military general that Chen Shi had been talking about, but he didn't recognize it. Not that Liu Bei had never seen the world, but that Guan Zhong was really strong enough to be frightening. But even so, neither Guan Yu nor Zhong Fei were confident that they could afford the title of the world's first. Wait a little longer. Soon Xuan Degong will know. Right. General Huasheng's injury is healed? Chen Shi changed the topic. He no longer wanted to spend effort on the name of the world's #1 general. Lu Bu's strength was undoubted. At least now Guan Zhong and the two could not join forces. General Hua was beaten by his second brother again, and he is probably still lying in the rear camp. Liu Bei shook his head, took Chen Shi's words, and did not continue to mention the matter of the world's #1 general. He had too much patience for Chen Shi. I was beaten again. Chen Shi said speechlessly. Hua Zhong has woken up. There is no dissatisfaction with the defeat at the hands of Guan Yu. That is like a knife from the gods that Hua Zhong still remembers, but defeated and defeated. Hua Zhong who woke up did not have the slightest intention of surrendering. In his words, Dongzhu was kind to him, and he died. He didn't say, as for Dongzhu doing so many wrong things, it was Dongzhu's business. Loyalty or disloyalty was his own business. If you want to kill it, you have to listen to it. Good guy. This call almost beat Guan Yu, who volunteered to persuade him to surrender, and Guan Yu's face turned red when he was already stupid. Since it is no longer possible to influence Hua Zhong with words, Guan Yu feels that he still uses the way he is best to influence Hua Zhong. Whoever has a big fist is justice. Guan Yu decided to use his fist to influence Hua Zhong. Since it was a probation, Guan Yu, who emphasized the greatest understanding, naturally let go of Hua Zhong's restraints, and after the two sides beat each other, Hua Zhong was fucked down. But from this time Hua Zhong found that this guy who put his 3 knives back did not seem to be much better than him. In Hua Zhong's feeling, the forces he faced on the battlefield before were completely irresistible, but now the forces he was facing, although they were also very strong, could obviously feel that they were not impossible to resist. In this case, Hua Zhong naturally blamed his previous defeat on his carelessness and Guan Yu's sneak attack, and he was even more dissatisfied, and then he was constantly influenced by Guan Yu with his fists. But what is obvious is that no matter how many times Guan Yu beats Hua Zhong back, Hua Zhong gritted his teeth and wanted to fight Guan Yu to the death. Up to now, Guan Yu has completely recognized this reckless man in Guanxi, and he has rushed to his loyalty. Guan Yu has already recognized it, foolish loyalty, especially the inhuman foolish loyalty entrusted to. It is easy to gain the favor of a loyal and righteous man like Guan Yu, and it is precisely because of this that although Hua Zhong has not surrendered, he has also been greeted by Guan Yu's good wine and food. Of course, he will still be influenced by his fists and feet every day. Chapter 18 Li Yu's thoughts. However, what is more strange is that Guan Yu has relieved Hua Zhong's inner qi and has not sent a special person to take care of him, but Hua Zhong just stayed in the rear camp and did not escape, and Chen Shi probably couldn't pull his face down. Zijian's surrender. Guan Yu and Zhong Fei followed Hua Zhong to eat and drink and then began to persuade him to surrender again, and Hua Zhong had recovered by his super physical fitness. Yan Chang, I understand what you said, but Dong Xianghua has been kind to me, and I will not surrender to others before he abandons me, or before he is defeated. Hua Zhong shook his head and said a little lonely, as I said before, Dong Xianghua will be defeated and I will become a masterless person, and I will surrender to Duke Xuanda, but this is unlikely to happen. Not necessarily. Chen Shi opened the big tent and saw 3 strong men sitting on the ground grabbing large pieces of meat while eating and drinking, chatting while chatting. I've seen Mr. Chen. Hua Zhong clasped his hands. If you don't take a gamble, I know you have a lot of confidence in Dongzhua. If Dongzhua defeats Hulao Pass, rolls Luoyang's population and soldiers retreat to Chang'an, and then in order to delay the burning of Luoyang by the coalition army, you will surrender, because what he is going to do after that will disappoint you to the extreme. He is no longer Shiliang Dong Zhongying, he has been confused by the prosperity of Kanto, and he is no longer the Shiliang warrior who was a hero and a righteous and wealthy man. Chen Shi said indifferently. Hua Zhong didn't speak, just looked at Chen Shi, and after a long time spat out a few words. You don't understand how strong Dong Xianghua is. So you agreed. Chen Shi smiled and said, I know better than you that the strongest military general in the world, the strongest elite soldier in the world, and the best strategist in the world, but the one who leads them is not the strongest monarch in the world. On the contrary, the current Dong Zhongying is at most a third-rate monarch. The strongest general in the world. Zhong Fei stared at the bull's eyes. Guan Yu opened his eyes slightly to look at Chen Shi. They only noticed this sentence. As for the rest, they didn't listen at all. Yes, the strongest general in the world. Hua Zhong said dejectedly. Although Yan Chang and Ida are stronger than me, compared with Lu Bu, I don't think you two can beat them together. No. Guan Yu asked solemnly. Your third knife made me feel how strong you think he is facing him. Hua Zhong said with a wry smile. Guan Yu and Zhong Fei both flashed with a hint of fighting spirit on their faces. Their eyes were full of sparks. Such a powerful person, he really wanted to feel it, and the road ahead would probably be seen clearly on his body. Then General Hua said, Those things will happen then. You remember what I said. Chen Shi didn't care about Guan Yu and Zhong Fei's fighting spirit. Let them go. Anyway, with the kung fu under their hands, it was still okay not to beat Lu Bu to run. The strongest general in the world? The Jubwa who was training the cavalry outside the tent also heard the conversation of several people. After all, Guan Yu, Zhong Fei and others did not suppress their words, and the other party happened to have a clear ear and eye, and the Jubwa sitting on the horse touched the sword on his waist, tightened the silver spear in his hand, stretched out his hand and picked up the bow and arrow hanging on the horse and looked at the tiger prison pass silently. Child, please rush to Hulao Pass. Lu Bu once again asked for battle. He already knew that Hua Zhong was about to break through, but he was still killed by someone with 3 knives. This kind of master was what he had been waiting for. Dong Zhuo waved his hand and motioned to Li Yu. Hulao Pass is naturally safe with General Shu's garrison, but there is a rebellion in our rear, and Han Sui once again encouraged the Chong people, although the 2 generals Li Ji and Guo Sai can suppress it, but we should still transfer Xu Rong to sit in the rear, and Shangguo will personally lead a large army to face the princes of Quantong at Hulao Pass. Li Yu said with an indifferent expression. No one could have imagined that this thin civil servant was actually the first strategist under Dong Zhuo. Speaking of which, Li Yu is already a little disappointed in Dong Zhuo, and Dong Zhuo, who is content with pleasure, seems to be unable to do what Li Yu originally hoped for step by step. Li Yu, who was born in a poor family in Guanxi, hated the rule of the aristocracy over wisdom and thought, and he pushed Dong Zhuo step by step to the position of above 10,000 people under this person with the dream of sweeping the world and rebuilding the world. But unfortunately the prosperity of Kanto confused Dong Zhuo's heart, and now Dong Zhuo is just tyrannical. Tyrannical to the point that many times he is no longer thinking about what he came to this position for. This is also the reason why Li Yu wanted to transfer back to Xu Rong to sit in the rear this time. Xu Rong was in Hulao Pass. Not that Li Yu underestimated the princes of Guangdong, but that those guys really couldn't let Xu Rong take Hulao Pass. As long as Xu Rong is still in Hulao Pass, the princes of the Quantong region can only touch a nose of ash, this nameless general, but step by step from the frontier soldier to the level of captain. His experience is not comparable to the princes who have not experienced war in the Central Plains now, and his loyalty will never be shaken by others. Dong Zhuo is too strong. This is also what Li Yu found out when he looked back on the past. When the other princes were still thinking about how to have territory and people, they already had the potential to swallow the world. Li Yu had inadvertently laid the foundation too thick, so thick that it was impossible to face the whole world, and it was impossible to be defeated. Also because of this solid foundation, the generals who came to Luoyang were already content with pleasure under the leadership of Dong Zhuo, and no longer had the posture of Shiliang warriors. What Li Wenyu needs is a founding emperor who can sweep the world and break the old rules, and then establish new rules with his assistants, not a dead fat man who is confused by the prosperity of Kanto. However, after years of assistance, as well as a lot of hard work at the beginning, Li Yu felt that the current Dong Zhuo was just confused by his eyes, covered up by his own solid foundation all the dangers. As long as he gave him a head blow, he could turn back to the road he had prepared before. As long as he completed his own dream, even if he was like Shang Yang, he still had no regrets. In this way, then transfer the generals to join me in the tiger prison to defeat the rats in the east. Dong Zhuo hardly thought about it and directly agreed to Li Yu's proposal. Although Dong Zhuo is confused, but the habit he has developed for many years is still there, since the most powerful strategist under his command said so, then do it. Afraid of birds, the master has the strongest general, the master has the most elite soldiers, the master has the tiger prison Shengguan, the Guangdong group of rats. You Uncle Dong is here to clean you up. It's just that Dong Zhuo didn't see the civil servant sitting next to Li Yu shaking his head helplessly. Jiashu already knew what Li Yu was thinking. Yes. The generals responded loudly. The first battle is left to me. Lu Bu glanced at the circle of generals and said, although Hua Zhong is unhappy with me, I will avenge him for him. Chapter 19 Lu Bu is here. Or, Jiao Shun, who was sitting behind Lu Bu, looked at Li Yu expressionlessly. Did the princes of Quantong really not even suppress Xu Rong? If Xu Rong can't suppress it, it's just a matter of troops. Why should he be transferred to the rear? Han Sui won't care. He will be extinguished. Why is Xu Rong coming back? Jiao Shun's wisdom is not very good, but he is extremely powerful in commanding the troops, and naturally he can better understand the horror of Xu Rong. who leads 100,000 soldiers and horses. From his point of view, Xu Rong, who makes up for 100,000 soldiers and horses, sits in Hulao Pass, which is not at all something that the 500,000 Quantung coalition forces with uneven orders can deal with. If he doesn't understand, he doesn't want to. Maybe there are powerful figures in the coalition army, who knows? Chen Shi scratched his head. Chen Lan poured him a cup of tea before, and the time to drink tea was actually foggy for a while, and the fog was actually abnormal. It was impossible to see clearly from more than 10 meters away, and the white moon ring in the sky was also completely covered. This fog is too big. If you want it to be so outrageous, spring is not a good day. Chen Shi scratched his head and said, forget it, or dispel it. Anyway, the haze day is not a good weather. Chen Shi scratched his head as he began his movements. Li Juliu, who was still more than 10 miles away from Hulao Pass and was preparing to let Lu Bu attack at night, was a little surprised, and the fog he had arranged was slowly dissipating. The coalition also has masters. A fat man squeezed over from Li Yu and said smoothly, you borrowed the time, and the other side also used the same method. This time it's interesting tilde. When he doesn't help? No matter how you say it, you eat our salary. Li Yu looked at the dissipating fog indifferently. It was gone, before Lu Bu was clamoring to attack. Since the fog was dispersed, the assault was a strong attack. I don't see anything in need. Jia Shu glanced in the direction of the tiger prison, although he could not see the coalition forces, but he clearly knew that after Lu Bu's tiger came out of the cage, the foggy ending was doomed. I'm afraid of the lack of people's hearts. Li Yu looked in the direction of the tiger prison, as if he could see Lu Bu's disappeared figure. Even if people's hearts are insufficient, isn't the loss what you want? Continuing to sneer, Li Yu was silent. Hey, the fog has dissipated. Zhu Shou frowned at the stars that appeared again. The celestial phenomena have changed, and there will be a wise ruler in the north. Enemy attack. Just as Zhu Shou was thinking about the way out, a tragic roar interrupted Zhu Shou's thinking. I saw a huge golden red halberd tens of meters in size flying over fiercely, and then bombarded the village heavily. Chen Shi looked at the oversized halberd from a distance, and the wind and sand that followed because of the explosion, and he didn't have to think about it to know who was coming. Another oversized halberd flew out, and soon more than a dozen halberds flew all the way over, and a red shadow crossed the air. Quiet. Chen Shi looked at the panicked crowd, frowned, and shouted softly. Even the elite Yuju soldiers panicked after being attacked by the night, and if you think about it, the place where Lu Bu attacked probably blew up the camp. It's really troublesome. Chen Shi sneered and looked at the soldiers who were still panicking. Even if the low-level and high-level generals had begun to control, these soldiers who ran out of the camp without even taking weapons or wearing leather armor could really be called elite. Calm down. Chen Shi saw that there was no effect and used the spell again. Everyone was shocked. Their brains were clear. It felt like a basin of cold water was poured down, and the things that had been trained before flashed one by one, and the chaos in Liu Bei's camp disappeared in an instant. The thief will be beheaded. Yang Liang saw that his men were slaughtered by the other party all the way, and he didn't think about the gap between himself and the other party at all, and rushed up angrily. Bell! With a bang, the red shadow in a straight line finally stopped. And I saw that the man was wearing a three-pronged purple gold crown, wearing a Sichuan red cotton 100-flower robe, wearing a beast-faced head-swallowing cereal armor, and a delicate lion belt around his waist. He carried a bow and arrow with him, holding a painted halberd, and sat down to neigh in the wind and a red rabbit horse. Yang Liang was stunned. There was actually such a handsome guy, and after comparing himself, he was immediately furious and was about to step forward and behead him under the horse. A certain knife does not kill the nameless. You should report your name. Yang Liang shouted. Phew. Lu Bu smiled disdainfully. If he hadn't released more than a dozen killer moves in a row, he would have killed Yang Liang's eye before, but he didn't expect the other party to have the courage to talk to him like this. Looking for death. Yang Liang was furious. He was at the peak of refining qi, and he was deaf and clear, and in the moonlight like daylight, he clearly saw Lu Bu's disdain. Casually using a halberd to block Yang Liang's hard blow, and with a backhand stroke, a large number of soldiers who wanted to take advantage were directly divided into two by Lu Bu. Where are Yuan Shao and Cao Cao? And where is the military general named Guan Yu who killed Hua Zhong? Lu Bu looked at Yang Liang, unable to arouse the slightest interest, too weak, so weak that the arrogant Lu Bu did not disdain his battle at all. The force of the recoil made the careless Yang Liang almost unable to hold the knife, and only then did he understand that the person in front of him was definitely the pinnacle master of internal qi leaving the body. I've long wanted to feel stronger power. Yang Liang licked his lips, looking at Lu Bu as if staring at a prey. Lu Bu didn't look at Yang Liang at all. For him, the guy who refined his qi into a gang was simply vulnerable. Look at the knife. Yang Liang shouted, frantically venting his accumulated strength in the direction of Lu Bu. It's really troublesome. Lu Bu glanced at Yang Liang in contempt. In order to reduce consumption, plus increase the suddenness of the night attack, Lu Bu, who had restrained his momentum, did not look very strong. After thinking for a while, a huge momentum swung away from Lu Bu's body. Since the night raid had been discovered, Lu Bu was too lazy to hide it. The whole person exuded a golden red luster, and the cloak behind him was windless and automatic, and the whole person seemed to have descended to earth. Ding! Yang Liang watched his all-out blow stay directly a few centimeters in front of Lu Bu's cheek, and couldn't help but be frightened. Get out! Lu Bu shouted. The sound was like thunder, and the air bomb condensed in the sound directly knocked Yang Liang out in shock, and the blood was scattered. Yuan Shao is dead. The sharp-eyed Lu Bu saw Yuan Shao being protected by a bunch of people in the crowd, but this was nothing to Lu Bu. Yang Liang, who was beaten out by Lu Bu, lay on the ground, spurting out blood, and he was named a famous general in Hebei and only took 3 moves on the other party's hands, and it was because the other party was too lazy to kill him. Despair and fatigue rushed to his heart together. Maybe it was a good destination to fall like this. Yuan Shao is dead. Just when Yang Liang was about to give up his path as a warrior, the man's cry with joy came from his ears. Chapter 20 Belief in Crossing the Limit. Lord. Yang Liang's mind flashed the scene when he defected to Yuan Shao. He and Wen Chou, who were born in poverty, were not despised by Yuan Shao, and Yuan Shao, who was a hero in the world, looked at the shabby clothes of the two of them, took off his brocade robe without hesitation, and gave him his BMW. At that time, Yang Liang and Wen Chou swore that as long as they were alive, they would never let Yuan Shao be harmed in any way. I'm alive. Yang Liang, who was deeply injured, was covered in blood, and the wounds on his body were quickly repaired. But there were only 2 people in Yang Liang's eyes with scarlet eyes, his lord Yuan Shao, and Lu Bu, who defeated him. A huge and solid blood-colored light blade slashed towards Lu Bu. Ding! Lu Bu shattered the light blade. Looking at Yang Liang, who was blood-colored and his eyes were blood-red, he had a little more appreciation. His strength was enough to shatter the other party's confidence, but the other party was actually promoted to a higher realm. If you want to hurt the Lord, step on my body first. Yang Liang's eyes flashed with madness, and he crossed his green dragon horse and stood in front of Lu Bu. I see. Is this your belief? Lu Bu looked at Yuan Shao not far away. You have a good subordinate. But he can't stop me. The moment Lu Bu opened his mouth, Yang Liang's instinct felt fear, but Yuan Shao behind him made him see death as nothing. Boom! Yang Liang's bloody blade hit Lu Bu's halberd fiercely. Nice power. Lu Bu held the halberd with one hand and bounced Yang Liang away with his backhand. Say your name. You are qualified to let me know your name. Hebei Yang Liang. Yang Liang said in a muffled voice. Lu Bu handed over the halberd from his left hand to his right hand, and a golden red light covered the halberd, and the coiled dragon originally made of meteorite on it seemed to come to life at this moment, gushing out with golden red dragon flames. Similarly, on the other side, Yang Liang was also accumulating strength. He had already understood that if no one came to help within 15 moves, he might die here. He could die, but his lord was behind him. Kill! Yang Liang shouted and finally couldn't help but take the first step. Lu Bu's momentum of unlimited growth continued to continue, and he might not be able to raise the confidence to shoot. With a storm-like attack, Yang Liang only had time to attack 5 knives before being completely beaten back by Lu Bu, and then smashed into Yang Liang's head like a storm. Without too much light, Lu Bu wrapped every trace of inner chi around his body like instinct, without the slightest waste, and without the slightest waste of every strength, perfectly suppressing Yang Liang's counterattack. 10 moves, 15 moves, 20 moves, 25 moves, 30 moves. Yang Liang only felt that Lu Bu's attack was getting heavier and heavier, so heavy that he couldn't take care of other things, so he could only keep holding on. If he knew that he had blocked Lu Bu's 30 moves, he would probably be very shocked, but he could remember only one now, and that was to block it, and before he fell, no one could hurt Yuan Shao. It's so boring. After Lu Bu beat Yang Liang backwards again, he finally felt bored with Yang Liang, and his left hand also rested on the halberd. Ding! With a crisp sound, Yang Liang's knife shattered, and then Lu Bu reversed the halberd and cut it diagonally. Yang Liang struggled to retreat, but the tip of Lu Bu's halberd still swept to Yang Liang, and in an instant, Yang Liang's originally broken battle armor split into 2 halves, and a huge wound appeared on Yang Liang's chest to his waist. Brother! Wen Chou, who was struggling to come, saw this scene and his eyes were about to burst, and Yang Liang, who had fallen, heard the vague voice of Wen Chou's mouth and crossed an arc, and then slowly fell, never standing up and fighting Lu Bu desperately like before. Wen Chou's whole person went crazy directly, and a chaotic aura gushed out from his body, and there was an extra touch of blood in the original pure gold inner energy. Is it brotherly righteousness? Lu Bu looked at Wen Chou, who rushed over and thought thoughtfully. He was no longer a simple internal chi leaving the body. Unlike others who were still thinking about how to break through, he had sorted out and planned a set of methods on how to break through the limits of the body, so that more people could reach the internal chi out of the body. He wanted to create more masters to challenge himself. This idea would definitely scold Lu Bu as a madman if others knew it, but for this man who was already standing at the top and looking down on the heroes, this was just a game of selecting challenges, and he firmly believed that he would be the strongest warrior. Wen Chou's crazy attack was also suppressed by Lu Bu after only 5 moves. Even if he stepped into the height of the internal chi leaving the body, his strength had made a qualitative leap, but there was still a huge gap with Lu Bu. Second Master, where is Zhong Fei? After Chen Shi's soldiers stabilized his subordinates, he asked the generals around him curiously, "Why didn't you see those 2 super masters with such a big movement?" The second and third brothers went to support leader Yuan. Liu Bei rode over, dressed in military uniform. "Thank you Sichuan for stabilizing the soldiers." "Oh, it's nothing. Let's hurry up and help beat out Dongzhuo's troops who attacked at night. Otherwise it would be troublesome once the camp was bombed." Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said. Liu Bei understood Chen Shi's meaning very well. This time is the best opportunity to show, and it is also the best opportunity to make friends with all kinds of princes and show them his powerful side. Liu Bei now not only has the best generals in the world, but also the best elites in the world. "Zalone, give half of the infantry to you to protect the military division. I go to repel foreign enemies," Liu Bei said to the Zhubo who was handed over to him by Gongsun Zon and led the white horse to him. "What?" Chen Shi was stunned. "Are you Zhao Zalong of Changshan?" Chen Shi carefully looked at the Zhubo beside Liu Bei through the moonlight, 8 feet long, thick eyebrows and big eyes, broad face and heavy cheeks, majestic, dressed in silver and white armor, holding a sword in his left hand, holding a bright silver spear in his right hand, and riding a white horse under his crotch. "Have you heard of it?" Zhao Yun asked with slight curiosity. "The BMW under the crotch is a jade lion at night." Chen Shi looked curiously at the docile white horse he had teased. "Yes." Zhao Yun nodded. "Oh, okay, my safety depends on you." Chen Shi smiled and said, thinking that Gongsun Zon at this time did not know that there was such a powerful Zhubo among his white horse righteousness. "Don't worry, the military division will not let the military division suffer the slightest injury." Zhao Yun said solemnly. "I have more confidence than you." Chen Shi said in a low voice, "Let's go to the central camp and see how our Yuan leader is. After a while I will see several different colors of air bombs. By the way, Zalone, what color is your chi?" "Silver blue." Zhao Yun smiled and did not hide his strength. If he hadn't known his duties, he would have gone to the central camp like Guan Yu and Zhong Fei to see Lu Bu before. Chapter 21 Lu Bu against the sky. Or, boom. Lu Bu seriously injured when Chou in about 35 moves, and there was another supermaster lying on the ground, but this time Lu Bu did not kill Yuan Shao, but frowned slightly and looked towards the west. He felt 2 amazing momentum rushing in his direction. He smiled, although these 2 momentums were not as strong as him, but they rarely stimulated the blood in his chest. "Come on, the master I have been waiting for. Defeating ants does not make me excited. Only killing the master can make the blood in my chest burn." Guan Yu's blue light became larger and larger as the distance approached, and even began to squeeze Zhong Fei's black light next to him. "Lu Bu, look at the move." Guan Yu spat out these 4 words majestically on his calm face, and the whole person was full of arrogance. Guan Yu, who mentioned the Qinglong Yangyu knife, could feel that he was already a little unable to control the rampage power, but Lu Bu, who was standing there completely motionless, was a good target no matter how he looked at it from that angle. "It's good." Lu Bu's eyes showed a rare fear. Even if Lu Bu's strength had seen through the essence of this move, he did not avoid it. Because he was Lu Bu, he disdained to avoid it. This world and the warriors opposite him could only avoid him, and there was nothing that could make him avoid it. Dang! With a loud roar, the blow that condensed Guan Yu's whole body and Lu Bu's full strength collided, and the explosion directly killed most of the surrounding soldiers with a powerful shock. "You're good." The dust faded. Lu Bu sat on the red rabbit, holding Fang Qian's halberd in both hands and staring at Guan Yu opposite. "It is not unjust for Hua Zhong to die at your hands with his hand. But if you deal with me, you are still short of ignition." Guan Yu's chest was full of blood. He never thought that someone could directly stop him with all his strength. No, even relying only on his own strength, without much preparation, he retreated his own fight, and even directly broke up his gathered momentum with one blow. There is a blow that does not advance or retreat. If a normal person may be directly killed because he can't withstand your first blow, and like Hua Zhong, even if he blocks it, he can't interrupt your momentum, resulting in being directly killed by a heavy blow after a move, and if you dodge, it will make your momentum even stronger, and you will be beheaded under the horse in the end. Lu Bu looked at Guan Yu indifferently and said the strength of Guan Yu's move. Guan Yu breathed silently. His expression was still proud. His face completely ignored Lu Bu's evaluation of himself. No matter how many turbulent waves in his heart were covered by that red face and those half-squinted arrogant eyes, even Lu Bu did not see the change in Guan Yu's heart. Is this the world's #1 general? I really endured my strongest move as if nothing had happened. Guan Yu grabbed the reins and stared at Lu Bu opposite with his slightly open eyes, and inadvertently he had already admitted Lu Bu's strength. "Second brother, I'll help you." Zhong Fei, who had itchy hands, shouted to rush up to help after seeing Guan Yu being forced to retreat. "You're good." Lu Bu glanced at Zhong Fei and said. Lu Bu, who broke into the enemy camp alone, did not feel the slightest danger to the soldiers surrounded by him, and the only people who could stop him were the two in front of him. "It seems that there are only a few of you in the coalition army." Lu Bu looked in the direction of Yuan Xiao with contempt, and then looked at Cao Cao who had just arrived and the two Xiahou brothers behind Cao Cao. Lu Bu released his momentum arbitrarily. Guan Yu half squinted his eyes and looked at the other party without speaking. Even if he tried his best to strike, Guan Yu could not feel Lu Bu's bottom. Unfathomable, this was Guan Yu's own feeling. Boom! With a sharp explosion, along with a silver arrow of light, it streaked across the night sky, shattering into stardust, and Lu Bu, who frowned, turned his horse's head and prepared to leave. "Cao Cao, Yuan Xiao, your head is tied around your neck." Lu Bu sneered and turned his horse's head. Xiahou Yuan held the bow and stared at Lu Bu. That huge momentum almost made him unable to raise his hand. No matter how he shouted in his chest, he could never raise his hand to shoot the bow and arrow that had been prepared. Lu Buxiu goes. Xiahou Yuan, who bit his lower lip, finally roared and shot out the arrow he had already prepared, and a blood-colored black light shot at Lu Bu like a meteor. After an arrow, Xiahou Yuan's whole person seemed to have been fished out of the water. Lu Bu sneered and swung his halberd to shoot down the arrow, then took out his bow from the horse and sneered, "Let you understand what a real bow and arrow are." With the opening of the bowstring, the arrow gradually solidified, let go, and a golden red streamer crossed the night sky without the slightest sound piercing the straight line of a kilometer. "My hand slipped. I haven't used a bow for a long time." Lu Bu's laughter came over with a touch of mockery, and then he turned his head, and the handsome flag had been shattered. Guan Yu turned around and looked at Xiahou Yuan, who was in a cold sweat, and when Lu Bu's momentum completely suppressed himself and others, a guy who refined chi into a gang could actually shoot out a bow and arrow. Congratulations. Guan Yu carried the reins, controlled the half-dead Shiliang BMW under his crotch, and bowed to Cao Cao and the Xiahou brothers. After Guan Yu came, Xiahou Yuan, who was sure that he was safe, could no longer bear his fatigue, let go of the reins with his right hand, and slowly fell. Wonderful talent. Cao Cao felt bad when Xiahou Yuan let go, and stretched out his hand to help but didn't want Xiahou Yuan to fall like this. Fortunately, Xiahou Dun on the side stretched out his hand to stop Xiahou Yuan who was planted. "Big brother, Miaocai is fine, but the internal qi is too much and he fainted." Cao Gong, Xiahou Miaocai wakes up and is very likely to break through the existing level. If there is no breakthrough, you can ask him how he shot that arrow today. Guan Yu said a few words, then turned around and prepared to leave. "Yo, Lu Bu is gone. I also want to come and see the excitement. Chen, she is like a policeman in later generations. He will come after fighting in the front." "Lu Bu is gone," Zhong Fei said with a dark face, but he was dark enough, and no matter how dark he was, he couldn't see anything. "Oh, you didn't stop him?" Chen Shi raised his eyebrows and said with a strange expression, "Can't stop it." Zhong Fei's face darkened, originally thinking that he was fierce enough, but today he saw what a fierce man is. Cutting melons and vegetables like overturning Yang Liang Wenshou, and then stopping Guan Yu's strongest blow with one move, the huge momentum directly suppressed everyone present. "Oh, by the way, Chen Shi and Chen Zichuan in Xie Yingchuan have seen the leader and Cao Gong." Chen Shi seemed to have discovered Cao Cao at this time, smiled and bowed his hands. To be honest, it was the first time in so long that he officially introduced himself. Cao Cao still returned a salute to Chen Shi very personably, but he was also anxious about Xiahou Miaocai's situation, and after seeing Yuan Xiao, he quickly returned to the camp, and Yuan Xiao was now in a panic to treat Yang Liang when ugly, and even Cao Cao did not pay attention, let alone the unknown Chen Shi. It seems that Lu Bu can cut several Guan Yu to death, and the same proportion is enhanced. The more strength the person in front of him increases, and the greater the gap between him and the person behind him. Chapter 22. In fact, I am very good at fortune-telling. Or, well, it seems that we should hurry back and rectify the military affairs. Chen Shi saw that the future Hebei boss ignored him, so he had to spread his hands and greet Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, and Zhao Yan helplessly. "By the way, let me introduce you to this. This is Changshan Zhao Zilong. Well, the cavalry captain of our army. You can communicate more." Chen Shi swayed and walked away, while introducing Zhao Yan to Guan Yu and Zhong Fei. "I have seen the two generals Guan Zhong." Zhao Yan clenched his fists. Guan Yu squinted his eyes and bowed back, while Zhong Fei greeted Zhao Yan with his loud voice. It seems that Zhao Yan seems to be much stronger than Guan Yu and Zhong Fei, and these two guys don't see that Zhao Yan is also a master. Chen Shi tilted his head and thought, but he didn't have any thoughts he wanted to tell Guan and Zhong now. Ah. Chen Shi scratched his head and looked at Hua Zhong. After the two of them went out, it was Hua Zhong who was in charge of the white horse Tsongi. I will go. Why don't you run? Such a good opportunity. If it were me, I would definitely leave. Chen Shi said with a slight curiosity, listening to the soldiers of the white horse righteous soldiers. Hua Zhong actually repelled Dong Zhujuan who came to attack the camp. No matter how you look at it, this is not scientific. You are going to join us. No, it's just that Zhong Liao is not pleasing to the eye. Hua Zhong glanced at Chen Shi and said, Oh, so that's it. I found that your grade has become lower. It used to be aimed at Lu Bu, but when Lu Bu came, you went to the generals who were upset and dropped the price, man. Chen Shi almost choked Hua Zhong to death with a sentence. But by the way, didn't I arrange a patrol when I left? And our team didn't panic at all. How could it be broken in? Because the enemy General Zhong Liao found that Zhuangdegang was constantly gathering troops and stabilizing the morale of the army, he personally attacked the camp. Ajubua saw that Hua Zhong looked unhappy and didn't want to speak, so he stood up and explained. Oh, I see, but he can actually recognize Zhuangdegang, and he knows where our camp is. I really don't know what to say. Chen Shi sighed helplessly. The coalition army's secrecy measures were negative. Forget it, don't worry about this matter. Hua Zhong will study Lu Bu with us. Anyway, you guy is also a non-staff person. As long as you don't make trouble, you can do whatever you want. Chen Shi sighed and said, looking at the coalition camp that was still rioting, and estimated that it would take a long time for Liu Bei to come. Sitting in the big tent, after listening to Guan Yu's true description, even Zhao Yun showed a solemn look. Ha, bearded man, you believe it now. Hua Zhong was happy when he heard that Guan Yu had started a move and was countered. Guan Yu, who was half squinting, once again showed murderous intent towards Hua Zhong, and usually at this time, if Hua Zhong continued to talk nonsense, the two would begin to fight freely from fist to flesh, and then until Hua Zhong fell to the ground. He, I won't say anything. Hua Zhong shut up with interest. He didn't want to challenge Guan Yu, who was not in a good mood now. Hey, Zhejiang, what do you know about Lu Bu? Is there any way? Seeing that several people present were silent after listening to Guan Yu's description, Chen Shi had no choice but to name Hua Zhong. If there is a way, I will still see him Zhong Liao unhappy? Hua Zhong said helplessly, you can feel the horror of Lu Bu with today's move. In fact, you don't know at all. Lu Bu is even more terrifying. I have always suspected that the Red Rabbit can fight better than me. Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, and Zhao Yun all looked at Hua Zhong, a horse that was more fierce than Hua Zhong himself. Hua Zhong was left of his body. Right, then it was still a horse? I'm not kidding. Hua Zhong said under the pressure of the four people, Lord Xianghua saved the Red Rabbit horse, so the Red Rabbit allowed the Prime Minister to ride, and when he gave the Red Rabbit to Lu Bu, the Prime Minister did not think that Lu Bu could conquer the Red Rabbit. You mean that horse may have a degree of internal qi leaving the body? Zhao Yun felt his face twitching. Is this still a horse? I thought that when I saw the Nightlight Jade Lion that my master Tong Yuan had prepared for him, I was very happy. You must know that the Nightlight Jade Lion took Master Zhao Yun a whole year to catch in the prairie, and Zhao Yun, who had just broken through the internal qi and left the body, took a long time to tame the Nightlight Jade Lion. Think about it. The Nightlight Jade Lion that refined qi into a gang is not weaker than Zhao Yun Chu's qi leaving the body. How *** is the Red Rabbit? Probably. Anyway, when Chu Xianghua was away, I wanted to sneak out for a while, but I was played by that horse. Hua Zhong told his unbearable past. Okay, just calculate Lu Bu's strength according to this level. Well, don't be afraid of more, just be afraid of less. Let's talk about it. Can you do it? Chen Shi poured a glass of wine for a few people and said, as for Liu Bei, Chen Shi is probably still enjoying himself in the camp of the princes he rescued. I estimate 100 moves. Zhong Fei's face darkened, and he said first. I'm pretty much the same. Guan Yu sighed. Zilong, what about you? Chen Shi glanced at Zhao Yun, who opened his mouth but did not speak. Can you take it? Zhao Yun, who couldn't laugh or cry, shook his head. If his horse was weaker, there would be a little hope, but now, if the Red Rabbit really has that degree of not having to fight, Xiang Wang will be reborn riding a black horse. Guan Yu and Zhong Fei frowned and looked at the little white face in front of them. Their tone was so big that they were not afraid of flashing their waists. If it weren't for Chen Shi next to them, these two guys would definitely draw a line and gesture. Zilong drew a hand. Chen Shi also saw Guan Yu Zhong Fei's indignation, but if he hadn't known about the murderous nature of this handsome guy, he probably wouldn't have asked this. Zhao Yun scratched his head. Why is Zhichuan so sure of my strength? I don't remember that I have shown my strength. That's what he said, but Zhao Yun still made a false bow movement, and a silver blue arrow appeared in Zhao Yun's hand. This time Guan Zhong was instantly convinced. Isn't this Nima the move Lu Bu used before? The two of them had tried it, and the two of them could only make a hemp cake, and they couldn't make a shape at all. Well, I was bored before, and I use numbers to calculate the number of people in the world, although some people can't name them, but when they appear in front of me, I can match them, and the 4 of you are on the list. Chen Shi casually pulled a gimmick. Whether you believe it or not, I can believe it myself. Oh. The 4 of them stared at Chen Shi with interest, and Lu Bu's matter was not solved if it could not be solved. Chapter 23. There are many masters in this world. Or, Lu Bu, if I'm not mistaken, I should be the best in the world now. There is a guy who can challenge him. He is getting old, and Lu Bu is moving towards the peak. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said, but then he thought that it seems that it is only 190 years now. Huang Zhong is only 43 years old, and he is also at his peak, and it is not certain who will cut whom. Besides, according to the physical fitness of these people, the peak period should not be too short. Thinking about it this way, it seems that Master Huang is the most murderous. Why didn't Zichuan say it? Zhong Fei asked with a hum. I thought of some things, how long your life is and how long your peak period is. I suspect that there is something wrong with the data I calculated. Chen Shi's face darkened. If the peak period is very long, then the strength of Huangzhong and Yang Yang needs to be reassessed. Zichuan asked why this matter. Zhao Yun asked with some confusion. There are some problems. Answer if you know. Chen Shi's expression returned to normal. In terms of lifespan, it should be 120 to 150 years old to the extent that the internal qi is separated from the body, but because of the different internal qi of cultivation, there will be 50 years of fluctuations, and even some special health preservation techniques can extend the lifespan to nearly 300 years, but this is very rare. These are not secrets, Zhao Yun told Chen Shi without thinking. Oh, how long will the peak be? Chen Shi frowned and asked. He thought of something bad. This depends on the individual's physique, as well as the exercises. Generally speaking, unless the strong exercises are practiced to the point where they are fully fed back, that is, the internal qi is self-contained and endless, then they will age quickly after the age of 70. As for practicing flexible exercises, it is much better. Generally speaking, it will be at its peak before death. Zhao Yun seems to know a lot about these aspects, and the explanation is extremely detailed, and even Guan Yu and Zhong Fei are not very clear about these things. Cultivating flexible exercises has no combat effectiveness at all, and cultivating that kind of thing on the battlefield can't survive at all. How can it be at its peak for so long? Zhong Fei said disdainfully. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows. History went inside. Well, more than 90% of Zhao Yun practiced flexible exercises, and he would always be at his peak before he died, and he didn't look so old. That's true. What left Chen Shi speechless was that Zhao Yun actually echoed Zhong Fei's statement. Oh, since this is the bottom in my heart, Lu Bu deserves the first. There is a person in the south who has slipped to the peak, but now when I meet Lu Bu, who wins and who loses is still 2 words. Zilong has not yet reached the peak, or Zilong has reached the current peak. Zilong will maintain this level for a long time, until one day. Chen Shi thought of the Chengbanpo mentioned in a certain version, Zhao Yun's 9-clawed golden dragon soul possession. The god block the god, the Buddha should destroy the Buddha, and the demon block the demon slayer. How about until one day? Chen Shi hadn't spoken yet. Zhao Yun had already looked at him nervously, hoping to know what would happen in the future. The strange color in his eyes flashed away, but the tension on his face betrayed his inner excitement. What did you say at that time? You can do what Lu Bu can't do. You can still do what Lu Bu can't do, and even according to that degree of estimation, Lu Bu can't pass 100 moves under your command at that moment. You are similar to a god. Chen Shi thought about the romance version of Changbanpo, and it is estimated that Zhao Yun, who was running amok by Lu Bu, could also be killed. Really? Zhao Yun's eyes flashed with a hint of loss. Did you use it in the end? But that's fine. As the last end, the hero's funeral is also a destination. Thinking of this, Zhao Yun's eyes once again regained their firmness, and the path of a warrior would never be afraid of death. Hey, Zichuan, you didn't miscalculate. How could this guy be so powerful? That's Lu Bu. Zhong Fei's loud voice began to brush his sense of existence. That's the truth. There's no way. Chen Shi spread his hands and said that he was helpless. There is another person in the north, but I don't know where it is. It belongs to the type that the second master hates very much, born with divine power, estimating that he will break his wrist with Xiang Wang on the earth. Who wins and who loses is 2 words, and then the second master will come down, and then the one that can only be counted as a place in Shiliang, not a person. Chen Shi shrugged his shoulders and said that his ability was insufficient, so he could only do this. Hey, Zichuan, what about me? What about me? The second brother in front of me has appeared. What about me? What about me? And why is this guy in front of me? Zhong Fei's explosive sound echoed in Chen Shi's ears again, causing his ears to buzz. Your words. Chen Shi deliberately stretched his voice to whet Zhong Fei's appetite. Where am I? Where am I? Zhong Fei asked anxiously. Next is you, and then there are some people who wait for me to see them. After all, it's very troublesome not to deal with people. and the most important reason is that some people have not risen yet, and some people have just risen and were killed. Chen, she said helplessly. It's really troublesome to be sorry for people. Hey, what about me? Hua Zhong saw that the little white face, beard, and black charcoal head were all on the list, and seeing that all three people had evaluated it, when it was time for him, Chen, she wanted to send him away without saying a word. Actually, I'm very strange. If I don't tell the second master not to kill you, will you be hacked to death by the second master? Chen, she turned his head and studied Hua Zhong with a scientific eye. Whether Hua Zhong would be hacked to death is really worth researching. Since he was not hacked to death, he has nothing to do, so it can only be said that these are not fixed. Hua Zhong's mind flashed the light and shadow of the oversized Qinglong Yangyu knife, a chill, but before he could speak, Guan Yu stroked his beard and said, cutting it down is much more troublesome than me changing the direction of my efforts in order to catch the work. Like this kind of guy who doesn't surrender and can eat if he knew it would be easy to. Said Guan Yu gestured with his right hand. Tiger wind. Bearded, do you want to go too far? No matter what I say, I have guarded the camp for you, and you actually have this tone. Hua Zhong shouted unhappily. For the sake of you being a man, I don't care about you. Guan Yu turned his head arrogantly and looked at Chen Shi. There is no him on the list, his ability is limited and he can only calculate the top 24. People can calculate the number of small weeks, I am just a little grade, but his strength should be about 20. The reason why he didn't enter is because in my impression you were clicked by the second master. Chen, she made a gesture. Well, everyone understands what it means, and suddenly Guan, Zhong, and Zhao looked at Hua Zhong sympathetically. Chapter 24 Study how to clean up the opposite side. Or, why do you all look at me like this? Hua Zhong looked contemptuous. I have nothing to do now. Zichuan asked me to capture you alive. You were really lucky, and then your loyalty touched me very much, otherwise you would have died long ago. Guan Yu glanced at Hua Zhong and said non-salty. Stop, you two calm down first. Let's still think about how to deal with Lu Bu. If we can't defeat Lu Bu, the coalition army has no hope at all, and Lu Bu alone is enough to beat the morale of the coalition army to zero. Chen, she hurriedly persuaded that if Guan Yu and Hua Zhong really wanted to fight again, it would be really endless, especially Hua Zhong, a guy who made up his mind not to lose. Even if he fell to the ground, he could hold on to death, which was simply entangled. When it came to Lu Bu, everyone was silent, which was beyond the scope of his ability, and that guy was simply not human. How about a wheel battle? Chen, she proposed. Not good. Hua Zhong was the first to object. You are not qualified to speak, second master. How about this proposal? Chen, she glared at Hua Zhong and turned his head to the second master. No, Lu Bu is not one or two people who can drag him to death. Guan Yu is not a fool. He naturally understands when to be arrogant, when to restrain himself, and he must keep a low profile against a master like Lu Bu, and if he is not low-key, he will die. Group beating. Chen, she continued to guide. I won't do it. Zhongfei glared at Chen Shi. Okay, Ida will take the lead tomorrow, that's it. Chen Shi glanced at Zhongfei and said. As soon as these words came out, Zhongfei suddenly wilted, but then he shouted, if you take the lead, the second brother remembers to give me the formation. Chen Shi rolled his eyes. Zhongfei, don't look reckless. There are actually a lot of flowery intestines. I didn't say that the second master might give you a sweep. We will go to the formation for you tomorrow. Hua Zhong, don't you go. The four of them all looked at Hua Zhong, 3 supermasters, one full of flowers. Hua Zhong suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Especially Zhongfei stared at Hua Zhong with bull eyes. You said let's go together. If I don't go, what will the bearded man think of me in the future? Despise you. Hua Zhong glanced at Chen Shi dissatisfiedly. I'll go. Hua Shangxi crossed his mind, but change my clothes, give me a few more short guns. I said, I will never go to the opposite Lu Bu. If I go to help, those concubines and singers in my family will be finished. This is enough, brothers. Come on, drink. Saying that, Zhongfei brought a wine jar from the side and filled it with a few people, a bowl of food, and wiped a handful of wine on his beard. Tomorrow I'll see how Lao Zhong overturns Lu Bu for you. Chen Shi smiled and did not answer. From what he learned before, the gap between Guan Yu, Zhongfei, and Lu Bu in this world is much larger than in his memory. If Guan Zhong joins forces in this period can slightly defeat Lu Bu, then in this world, it is impossible for Guan Zhong to join forces to defeat Lu Bu, and the same degree of increase can only make the stronger. Chen Shi was holding the wine and thinking at the same time. He seemed to be accustomed to this kind of life. Although there was no computer, no internet, no posts, no singers, and movie stars, but this kind of life made Chen Shi feel a sense of ease. Liu Xuanda is indeed a good choice, but Cao Cao is the most promising. It's a pity, the two are not compatible. Forget it. If I really let me drink with me one day, and remember to carry me back, can I do it? Chen Shi reluctantly thought that relying on his mental strength to suppress his feelings, he clearly knew one thing, and now he himself has unconsciously stood in the perspective of Liu Bei's forces to think about the problem. Hey, that's it, it's nothing, just follow Liu Bei. Now Liu Bei is also famous and promising. As long as he defeats Liu Bei next, he will inevitably enter Dong Zhuo's eyes, and there will be too many places to operate. I may not be able to strategize, but my vision is there. Chen Shi slowly closed his eyes and continued to start his own thinking. Maybe Liu Bei was not the best choice, but Chen Shi, who cut into Liu Bei's forces at this point, also understood that this was the most suitable choice for him. If you have the opportunity to loot some generals or something, Huang Zhong, Gan Ning, Tai Shizi, Wei Yang, Chen Ji, they are all ruthless people. Let me think about where these people are, and then form a dream camp. Thinking about it, Chen Shi's thoughts flew farther and farther. When Liu Bei was very chic, Lu Bu had already come to Hulao Pass more chicly, and at this time Li Yu was already waiting for Lu Bu's arrival in the mansion in Guanay. I've seen the Prime Minister. I've seen the military division. Lu Bu and the others bowed to Dong Zhuo on the main seat, and then bowed to Li Yu. How? Li Yu asked calmly. At least 50,000 soldiers and horses have deserted after tonight, and the casualties cannot be too serious. After Lu Bu signaled Zhong Liao with his eyes, Zhong Liao stood up and said, this kind of meticulous task, Lu Bu is not good at. Grant the banquet. Can Feng Xian achieve any results? Dong Zhuo waved his hand and quickly arranged the banquet that had been prepared. After Lu Bu left, Li Yu ordered someone to prepare a banquet. No matter whether it failed or succeeded, Lu Bu had the need to win over, even if Dong Zhuo was confused, but Li Yu was not confused. Lu Bu was a little embarrassed, but he didn't lie, nothing, although I saw Yuan Shao and Cao Cao, but Yuan Shao had 2 people to protect him desperately, and he didn't kill him deliberately for a while, but he ran away, and Cao Cao came after killing General Hua's enemy. Oh, there is someone who can stop Feng Xian. Dong Zhuo was curious. Li Yu took out a roll of white silk from his sleeve and handed it to Dong Zhuo. All the information of Liu Bei and others in the past few days is on it. It's a pity. It's actually those 3. We still had a fate at the beginning, and they saved me once. When you win me over? Dong Zhuo didn't know what he thought. After he saw this information, Dong Zhuo, who had been extinguished since he entered Luoyang and got Lu Bu, once again raised his interest, revealing the heroic momentum of Shiliang back then. Li Yu was stunned for a moment, and then secretly rejoiced in his heart. What he was most afraid of was that Dong Zhuo would lose his ambition, but he didn't expect that he would give Dong Zhuo a slap in the face, and after seeing this information, he actually regained his original momentum. It's okay, it's just that I was fascinated for a while. It's good to be ambitious, it's good to have ambition. Li Yu instantly gained confidence. As long as the boss was ambitious, he could subdue the heroes of the world. This matter is not easy. If you want this person to completely invest in our side, it is not easy, but it is easy to divide it. After all, the 18th Road Princes are the 18th Road, but now is not the time. Let them understand our strength first. Naturally someone will throw themselves at us. Li Yu's eyes flashed, and the decadent depression of the Luoyang period was swept away, and the whole person was excited. Chapter 25 You Have Nothing. Or, 18th Root Princes. Hey, as long as the Prime Minister's ambition is still the same, I will let you understand the gap in 3 months at most. One plan after another flashed through Li Yu's mind, and Li Yu, who saw hope again, had the energy to play the 18th Princes under the Tiger Prison, but there was a condition for these. That is, Li Yu did not find that Dong Zhuo was just a momentary brain pump, and at other times he was still the dead fat man in Luoyang with a greedy and tyrannical temperament. Just when Chen Shi was thinking about how to clean up Dong Zhuo while expanding Liu Bei's reputation and power, Li Yu was also thinking about how to put the 18th Root Princes in one pot in a month or 2. Anyway, in his opinion, this matter was really not difficult. Xuan de Gong. Chen Shi held the wine bowl in a daze and saluted Liu Bei, who came in. Zichuan, wake up, wake up. Liu Bei shook Chen Shi from side to side. What's the matter, Xuan de Gong? Chen Shi was a little sluggish to react. Zichuan wakes up first. Wake up quickly. I have something to ask Zichuan. Liu Bei's face was red, with joy and urgency. What's the matter? The misty eyes suddenly regained clarity, and they did not have the ability to force the alcohol out of Guanzhong, but it was still possible to restore clarity to the brain by relying on mental power. Liu Bei quickly told Chen Shi what happened today. Chen Shi was stunned, scratched his head and said, "This is a good thing, what's wrong with it?" It is said that after Liu Bei reorganized his army out, he went straight to the nearby Dao Chen camp and Kong Rong's camp, and these two had a good relationship with Liu Bei recently, but it was obvious that Dao Chen's subordinates still had some ability, although the entire camp was in chaos due to the attack on the camp, but the Danyang elite soldiers always guarded the center, and after Liu Bei came, they quickly stabilized the morale of the army under the combination of internal and external combinations. As for Kong Rong's side, it is much uglier. The matter of education by the descendants of the saint is as easy as a hand, but the matter of killing can only be said to be difficult for strong people. Kong Rong's entire camp is simply incredible. If it weren't for a military general holding back the enemy's 2 generals, maybe Kong Rong would have fallen into the chaos. It is precisely because of this that Liu Bei's rescue can be said to be a charcoal in the snow for Kong Rong, and the goodwill for Liu Bei, a Han clan relative, was basically full, so after repelling the night attack troops, Kong Rong pulled Dao Qian and Liu Bei to drink tea in his camp. The three of them chatted and talked about their respective territories, and learned that Liu Bei lived in the Yuju Plain Kingdom. Kong Rong waved his hand and expressed his willingness to protect Liu Bei as the county governor of Taishan County next to him, and Dao Qian expressed his willingness to protect Liu Bei as the county governor of Taishan County after little thought. With the agreement of these two people, as long as Liu Bei does not refuse, this position is basically determined. Don't underestimate Kong Rong as a scholar, but his identity makes his words very weighty. It can be said that if the above rejects Kong Rong's proposal this time, Kong Rong can create momentum for Liu Bei and make him famous all over the world, and then it will be okay if it doesn't work. In addition to Dao Qian, a governor is willing to help, even if the above is unwilling. In such a period, gesturing twice, Liu Bei can sit in that position. Sichuan, you don't know the situation of Taishan County. Qingzhou has been fierce since ancient times. Coupled with the Yellow Turban Rebellion, Qingzhou can be said to be a banditry, and even some powerful mountain bandits gathered to defend the city, and there are only a few county towns in Qingzhou that are peaceful. Liu Bei said with a wry smile. In his opinion, Chen Shi did not wake up at all. Isn't it just some yellow turbans and some bandits or something? Chen Shi curled his lips and said, just these guys have something to be afraid of. With Taishan County, they have their own territory, and with their own people, they can develop, and no matter how troublesome Taishan County is, it is much better than being trapped in one place. Sichuan, are you sober? Liu Bei smiled bitterly and said, you probably don't know how serious the bandits in the entire Qingzhou are. Okay, I'm not sober yet. Let's hear how serious it is. Chen Shi said indifferently. It's very serious. There are more than 1 million bandit troops in the entire Qingzhou, plus the coerced people. The bandit army in the entire Qingzhou can exceed 2 million, and there are about 300,000 Taishan bandits in Taishan County. Liu Bei told Chen Shi the information he had learned with a dark face. 2 million. Chen Shi scratched his head. He remembered that when Cao Cao cleaned up Qingzhou, there were only more than 1 million people, and 300,000 people with good physical fitness were selected from them to form the Qingzhou army. Why are there 2 million now? 2 million is still a small amount, plus those people who report to the Yellow Turban bandits. It can be said that the whole of Qingzhou is full of bandits. Liu Bei explained to Chen Shi with a headache that he was indeed very enthusiastic about the territory of Taishan County, and the problem was that the territory could not be eaten. There were bandits everywhere, and he couldn't even splash water when he left 5,000 people in his hands. Well, there are bandits everywhere, just according to the calculation of 3 million, a lot of people. These are all people, and even 1/10 of them have seen blood, and they can become soldiers with a little training. Chen Shi said with a joking face, but it's a pity that Liu Bei didn't understand. Sichuan, now it's not a matter of soldiers. Taishan County used to be a good place, but now there are bandits, and it can't be pacified without an army of 100,000. And at any time, facing the counterattack of the entire Qingzhou Yellow Turbans, there was no way to garrison it at all. Liu Bei said helplessly. Xuandagong, what is your ideal? Chen Shi looked in a direction casually. Is it still the same as before? Support the Han dynasty. My ideal is to support the Han dynasty. Although Liu Bei didn't understand why Chen Shi changed the topic, he didn't hesitate at all. Does Xuandagong have the heritage behind Yuan Mengzhu? Chen Shi turned around and looked directly at Liu Bei and asked. No, after the Yuan family of the 4th generation and 3 dukes, the depth of the heritage is incomparable. Liu Bei shook his head. Then Xuandagong has the reputation of Kong Bei Hai. Chen Shi still asked with a smile. Naturally, it cannot be compared. Kong Bei Hai is a generation of great Confucians after the saint. How can he be compared? Liu Bei still shook his head. Then Xuandagong has the strength of Dao Gongzu? Chen Shi looked at Liu Bei, who was still puzzled, with an indifferent smile on his face. Since nothing, Dao Gongzu sits on Shuzhou Fushuo, and there is Danyang elite. How can ordinary people compare? Liu Bei shook his head and said. Then how can Xuandagong go to support the Han dynasty? Chen Shi asked with a smile. Naturally, naturally. Liu Bei opened his mouth, but it was difficult to say the common phrase of recruitment. Xuandagong, there's nothing. Chen Shi said in a low voice. Nothing. Liu Bei silently read the sentence. Only then did he realize that Liu Bei had still achieved nothing for so many years since the Yellow Turban Rebellion. Although he could now sit among the princes, sit on the elite of the world, and hold the most majestic general in the world, but when he thought about it confidently, there was indeed nothing. Chapter 26 The Road After. Or, yes, apart from the glory left by my ancestors, I still had nothing not long ago, but now I have 5,000 elites, the reputation of being among the princes, and the foundation to support the Han dynasty. Liu Bei had a slightly gloomy expression, and as his words gradually became excited, His eyes looked at Chen Shi as if they were shining with brilliance. Yes, there are so many, but these are not enough, far from enough, too far away, not to mention compared with the Yuan family of the fourth three dukes, even compared with some powerful people, except for fame, everything else is far inferior. Chen Shi had a sneer on his face. Too tender. Liu Bei is too tender now. Please advise, sir. Liu Bei straightened up and said solemnly, since Liu Bei was included in the ranks of the princes, this is the first time Liu Bei has spoken to Chen Shi so solemnly. It doesn't have to be like this. Chen Shi waved his hand and said, fame seems to be very important. It seems that you can get a lot of things, but fame is false, only strength is the most important. During the time of Duke Shao of Qin, the Qin state was weak, and the princes did not banquet them, and there were no talents in the world who entered Western Qin, and Shang Yang entered Qin, defeated Wei Wu and died in Hershey, laying the foundation of the strong army of Western Qin. So far the world called it tyranny. However, since then, most of the world's talented people have entered Xianyang. The princes of the East feared Qin like a tiger. Chen Shi's face showed a hint of fanaticism. The princes compete for the cauldron, seek truth, and not for the name. And there is no righteousness in the 300 years of the spring and autumn period, only profit. Chen Shi sneered repeatedly. What kind of history of thousands of years has already been written in front of him in troubled times? Liu Bei was speechless, slowly closed his eyes, and then opened them again without the slightest wavering. Zichuan, to be honest, I never thought that someone would see all this so clearly, so clearly. It's nothing, these things are very simple. As a monarch, the emperor's mind cannot be known, but there is one thing that must be known, that is, how to make yourself powerful. When your power is strong to a certain extent, all the rules will change with the words and deeds of the monarch. Chen Shi had a hint of bewitchment on his face. Relying on the emperor's mind to control the monarch under his command can only say that he is not qualified, and the real monarch disdains to play with these things at all. Son. His son was Chuan. Liu Bei seemed to be frightened, looking at Chen Shi stiffly. The emperor's mind, this kind of thing was shaken out, and it was still such a disdainful look. Xuan de Gong, what are you afraid of? Chen Shi asked calmly, if it is really as written on the Jade Seal, ordered by heaven, and live forever, how did Dongzhu's rebellion come about? It can only be said that it was ordered by the people at the beginning, and then it broke away from the people, and finally was destroyed by the people. The people are like water, the king is like a boat. Water can carry a boat, or it can overturn a boat, and it has been unchanged since ancient times. Chen Shi's words echoed in Liu Bei's mind like morning bells and evening drums, and he understood many problems that he couldn't figure out before, saw the people's easy food in the year of famine, saw the drunken life and dream of death of Luoyang's high-ranking families, saw the soldiers fighting on the battlefield for a full meal, and also saw the wine and music in the general's camp, and these things happened in front of him. Zichuan, don't say this kind of thing again. Liu Bei, who came back to his senses, took a deep look at Chen Shi, and then said solemnly, did I say anything? Chen Shi burped. Zhuangdegong has something to ask now. How to take Taishan County, how to become stronger, how to... Liu Bei gritted his teeth. How to sweep away the troubled times. Chen Shi smiled slightly. Sweeping away the troubled times is not what can be done now. What needs to be done before this is to become stronger, become strong enough. Taishan County is a good place. Qingzhou is a good place. 3 million bandit troops, 3 or 4% are young and strong. Take these people, a little training. You can't become the trend of Western Qin. You can also sit like Chen Shi and watch the smoke of the world. It's indeed a good place to say that, but it's difficult to calm down. Liu Bei sighed and said, on the contrary, it is not very difficult to pacify them, as long as Xuan Degong can persuade Dao Gongzhu to borrow food and take Taishan County, and then the whale swallows Qingzhou is not too difficult. If those people have a way to survive will not become bandits. The most important point is that in addition to Bingzhou and Qingzhou, which has been broken by the Yellow Turban and Bandit Army, the powerful and aristocratic families in other places are not something Xuan Degong can deal with. Chen Shi squinted his eyes and said, he was very clear about the general direction of Qingzhou, and he could even say that he was very clear about the general direction of the 13 states of the Han dynasty. Since Zichuan has such confidence, I am willing to give it a try. Liu Bei had almost no thoughts and made up his mind after listening to Chen Shi's words, and more than 30 years of experience made Liu Bei clearly know one thing. In this era, the power of the family and the powerful is very strong, strong enough to influence the imperial power, and it is not at all something that a small prince like him who is not yet formed can touch. Okay, just try, always try to know. If you don't try, who knows that you can't do it, who knows that you can't win that battle before Xiang Yu defeated Zhong Han, you always have to try. The family, the powerful, hey. Liu Bei sighed, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Those people are also the foundation, although there is indeed some scum in them, but it is undeniable that 90% of the elite of the Han dynasty are from this class, and before there is no absolute advantage, it is better not to think about dealing with this class. Chen Shi shook his head and said, to be honest, he didn't have much bad feelings about the family and the powerful, After all, in this era, except for land annexation, this class was beneficial to the entire country. The most grassroots management relies on these powerful people rooted in this land. It is undeniable that there are indeed some scum among them, but it is obvious that the mistake is more serious by overturning a boat of people with a pole. Because of this, Chen Shi can only think of restricting and pulling a batch, fighting a batch. If he really wants to eliminate the wealthy of the family, Chen Shi feels that if he destroys his family first, if he treats everyone equally, the Chen family also has some things that he is not used to. Since he couldn't lead by example, Chen Shi also extinguished the idea of fighting against the family, but in order to prevent the powerful of the family from taking advantage of Liu Bei's weakness to grasp Liu Bei's lifeline, forcing Liu Bei to have to kill the killer in the end, Chen Shichu chose Qingzhou, where the wealthy were basically cleared, from the beginning. This is also why Chen Shi almost didn't think about the question asked by Liu Bei, because even if Kong Rong and Dao Qian did not sponsor it, Chen Shi would let Liu Bei recommend himself as the governor of Qingzhou after the Qin King. Naturally, all the problems have been thought about a long time ago. Chapter 27, The Yuan Family of the Fourth Generation and Three Dukes. Chen Shi was dragged up by Guanzhong and the two in the morning, and there was no way that the main camp of the coalition army began to beat drums and raise the tent in the fifth watch. Guanzhong dragged Chen Shi, who looked sleepy, to the main camp. Yuan Shao looked at everyone with a gloomy face. "Highway, how did you attack the camp by Lu Bu last night?" Yuan Shao had a cold face. If Yuan Shu didn't give an explanation today, he wouldn't mind using Yuan Shu to stab him. How important it was to patrol the camp at night, it was so simple to be attacked. And the two most important generals under him fought desperately to save his life. At this time, it is no longer the time to emphasize brotherhood and conspiracies, and only by enforcing the law impartially can we unite the morale of the army. Last night, at noon, Lu Bu attacked the camp, and my general Ji Ling led his men to patrol, not wanting to be attacked by him, and completely destroyed the patrol troops. Yuan Shu stood up and said solemnly. The audience whispered for a while, and then the name of the handover of the homework was brought up and made public. To Chen Shi's surprise, Yuan Shu did not steal and play tricks in the slightest, but meticulously carried out the patrol camp, and even deliberately arranged a lot of secret posts. "Zichuan, do you think this fat man is afraid that the leader will settle accounts and prepare in advance?" Guan Yu asked in a low voice. "I'm afraid not. Yuan Highway is really not cheating and slippery." Although he was out of tune, his generals did not relax at all, and Ji Ling was a good person. Chen Shi squinted his eyes and said, he remembered the records in some previous books that Ji Ling was extremely loyal to Yuan Shu for some reason, and this guy was quite capable. "In that case, I won't punish you. I have also seen Lu Bu's courage. It is not Ji Ling who can stop it." Yuan Shao flipped through the name, looked up at Yuan Shu, who also had a gloomy face, and nodded and said, "Thank you." Yuan Shu was ready to bear yesterday's events for Ji Ling, but he didn't expect Yuan Shao to turn over so simply. But Yuan Shu, who had been fighting Yuan Shao, was a little unaccustomed. "Stop talking nonsense. Dongzhou has already come to Hulao Pass. If you all still have the heart to fight after today, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yuan Shao stood up and said majestically, and then swept past several princes who had been idle. The change in Yuan Shao's whole person is simply incredible, relying on the majesty of his body to actually suppress all the princes. Chen Shi stared at Yuan Shao in surprise. Is this the true nature of the pillar of the southern sky? What are you kidding? Yesterday was hit so hard, but today it exudes a stronger momentum. "Wentai, I will apologize to you on behalf of the highway for the matter of your subordinate Darong. Since I have come to ask for Dong, Wentai is willing to let go of his personal grievances, and Dong probably doesn't want to abandon the common people of the world for his own grievances." Yuan Shao got up and walked to Sun Jian and bowed deeply. This time even Chen Shi was frightened, looking at Yuan Shao in a daze. If Yuan Shao has always maintained such a demeanor, such courage, and sitting on the heritage of the 4 generations and 3 dukes, the world will belong to the Yuan family. Sun Jian also looked at Yuan Shao in a daze, and Yuan Shu was also stunned, but he reacted in an instant. The family's education once again appeared in his mind. Yuan Shu also stood up and walked in front of Sun Jian. "Previously, I was selfish for my own selfishness, so I didn't care about Wentai in a dangerous place. Shu hereby asks Wentai to forgive me. Dong matter, you and I can make a decision after asking for Dong. Now the chaos in the world has appeared. If Dongzhou is in power, the world will collapse, and the people will be displaced. Please think deeply." Yuan Shao, Yuan Shu gave Sun Jian enough face, and Sun Jian couldn't help but agree. I saw Sun Jian get up and look at Yuan Shao. That is, for the sake of the people of the world, I, Sun Jian, dare not neglect in the slightest. The power of Darong has been revealed, and I will settle with him Yuan Highway. Wentai righteousness. Yuan Shao said with a smile. The face was enough, and the words were also spoken. Sun Jian put aside his grudge and struggled to attack Dong, and then if anyone dared to neglect it, he Yuan Shao had a reason to deal with it. "Just for what you did today, if you lose at my hands, I will treat your family well, and if you lose at the hands of others, I will take care of your family for you. Yuan Shu glanced at Sun Jian, Yuan Shu, who had not yet disappeared in his heart, and almost blurted out these words. Sun Jian glanced at Yuan Shu and didn't reply. He didn't think that one day would come. Sun Jian firmly believed that he was invincible. What Sun Jian didn't expect was that soon he would use Yuan Shu's promise today, and Yuan Shu did take care of Sun Jian's family, even if he knew that the jade seal was in Sun Si's hands, although he was coveted, but he did not take it by force. I didn't expect Yuan Shu to have a cute side. These people had their own heroic side when they were young. Probably because of this they were able to come to this point. Chen Shi looked at Yuan Shu, who was righteous, and Yuan Shu, who was cheeky and quibbled before, looked completely two people. HMH. Sun Jian snorted coldly and sat in his position, while Yuan Shao once again stood in the position of the coach. The generals will obey the order. Yuan Shao looked cold. All departments led the soldiers to strengthen the protection of the camp, dig deep trenches, arrange horses, expand the camp, strengthen patrols, and must not happen last night. Yes. All the princes nodded. The rest of the people ordered the generals to gather at Hulao Pass and attack the city today. Yuan Shao held the command with a majestic face. Yes. Sichuan, what did the leader do today? Liu Bei drove all the cavalry out on horseback and arranged them on the left flank together, and there were not many wartime crises on the road, but he asked Chen Shi with a smile. If you can maintain your current demeanor, it will be really troublesome. Chen Shi yawned and said, although Yuan Shao's performance shocked him, it was not terrible because of the shock, not the habit. Soon the princes from all walks of life arranged their soldiers, the cavalry on both wings, the infantry in the middle, this time under Yuan Shao's compelling momentum. No one was making a fuss to command himself. Yuan Shao also directly pointed out that if anyone dared to take this opportunity to encroach on other people's troops, they would attack in groups. Because of this time the military orders of the coalition forces were the same, and the command of the troops was also handed over to the most suitable person. I have to say that the princes of the 18th route were twisted into a rope by Yuan Shao, and the combat effectiveness that broke out was not a joke. Yuan Shao directly gave the sword to Sun Jian. If anyone disobeys the command and kills him with this sword, no matter which family he is, he will come to me if something happens. When Yuan Shao handed the sword to Sun Jian and ordered him to command the infantry and say the call, Sun Jian was so grateful that he almost took out his heart and lungs to show his loyalty to Yuan Shao. Defeat Dong Zhuo and wash away the shame of you, a tiger, with the blood of the Shiliang elite cavalry. Did not accept Sun Jian's loyalty. Maybe Yuan Shao also understood that his hand could not reach Yang Zhou, but those indifferent words made Sun Jian's blood boil. Chen Shi, who was listening to it, felt that Yuan Shao was worthy of being the wise lord of the world, and then looked back at Zhu Shou's eyes behind Han Fu. Chen Shi knew that this Yuan Shao, who was in the state of a king, regarded Yuan Shao as a wise ruler, but unfortunately, Yuan Shao, who was full of the spirit of a king, could only hold on for a short period of time. Chapter 28 Open the screen arrow. Liu Bei was a little hairy. Since Chen Shi turned his gaze away from Yuan Shao, he began to look Liu Bei up and down. Sichuan has something to say. If you keep staring at me and don't speak, I can't help you. Liu Bei coughed lightly twice and asked Chen Shi, who was still staring at him. Oh, it's nothing, it's just strange. Yuan Shao can exude the aura of a king. Why doesn't Xuan Dagong have it? Chen Shi looked at Liu Bei with interest. At least he had not seen the kind of tiger body shock emanating from Liu Bei for more than a month, and the heroes of all directions bowed their heads and bowed to the king's tyranny. But Yuan Shao, who had always been not optimistic, made Chen Shi look sideways from time to time. What kind of overlord spirit? How dare you compete with the leader of the alliance? Liu Bei asked puzzled, and Guan Zhongzhao next to him, as well as Hua Zhong, who was similar to the horse bandit, also looked at Chen Shi curiously. It's the kind of momentum that the tiger body is shaken, and the heroes of all directions bow their heads. Just like the previous alliance leader did, he directly impressed Sun Wentai with his heart and courage, and he was so moved that he almost hugged the leader's thigh. After Chen Shi gestured twice, seeing that everyone was puzzled, he gave an example. Sichuan, don't talk nonsense. A strange smile appeared on Liu Bei's face, but he asked Chen Shi to stop talking nonsense. Okay. Chen Shi shrugged. Wait a while, Lu Bu will definitely come to challenge. How is Brother Yun's archery skills? Zhao Yun looked at Chen Shi with some confusion, but also nodded. Master also specially taught me archery at the beginning, and it can barely be regarded as entering the hall. Oh, then leave it to you. If Lu Bu comes up and smashes the field, don't shoot those who kill it within 3 or 5 moves. If someone carries 20 or 30 moves, once the defeat is obvious, Brother Yun will save it, and we will regard it as a good relationship. Chen Shi smiled and said, then turned his head and looked at Zhong Fei with a sinister smile. Third brother, what did you say when you were drinking yesterday? Isn't it Lu Bu? I went to tear him up. Zhong Fei's black face became deeper, but there was not much fear in his voice. Even if the three powerful teammates behind him rode and remained threatening, they couldn't beat Lu Bu. He had no way to run Lu Bu and he couldn't take him, and there was no way who would let him have more brothers. Well, Zhong Fei's loud voice made everyone present hear his voice. Yuan Shao, Cao Cao, and others glanced at Zhong Fei with a smile, and did not despise it. Only a few people whispered, pointing at Zhong Fei, but these didn't need to be cared about at all for the cheeky Zhong Fei. Okay, I hope you can tear him apart. Chen, she said helplessly. And at this moment, a tall man with a yellow face rode over and bowed to Guan Yu. Xiahou Miaocai has seen Xuan Degong, Yan Chang brother, and Yi Da. You're good. Guan Yu's half-squinted eyes opened a gap. I hope I have the opportunity to have a fight with Brother Yan. Xiahou Yuan bowed with his hands. Okay. The second master still cherishes words like gold, and he can't be unfamiliar with Xiaohuan, so it's good to be able to speak normally. You actually broke through with Lu Bu's hand, TSK. Zhong Fei looked at his future father-in-law with a curious face, and he was surprised, which made Xiahou Yuan a little embarrassed. But if Xiahou Yuan knew that this guy would marry his daughter in the future, he would probably have been slapped in the face. If Ida wants to fight Lu Bu, he should prepare more. Lu Bu's ferocity last night is still a lingering fear. Xiahou Yuan warned that Lu Bu's ferocity had been engraved in his bones, and he would never provoke Lu Bu's monster if it was necessary in the future. Ha ha ha, don't worry, don't worry. Do you see it? This is all for me. It will be fine. Zhong Fei said carelessly, with a proud face, three supermasters beside him. Even if Lu Bu was not good, he would capsize in the gutter. Then I wish the Ida flag a victory. Xiahou Yuan looked at Zhong Fei, then at Zhao Yan and Guan Yu, stunned and didn't see anything, so he had no choice but not to hit Zhong Fei's enthusiasm. Don't worry, even if you can't win, Lu Bu doesn't want to take advantage of it. I have brothers. Saying that, Zhong Fei looked at Guan Yu proudly, and Guan Yu also nodded slightly. In that case, I can rest assured, if you need it, remember to say hello. Seeing that Guan Yu also nodded, Xiahou Yuan didn't say anything. Even if Guan Yu and Zhong Fei couldn't beat it, there would be no danger, at least in Xiahou Yuan's opinion. Lu Bu sat under the gate tower of Hulao Pass, his tall body bathed in the rising sun like a god. The surroundings were silent, and there was not even a soldier guarding the city. This was Lu Bu's self-confidence, and it was also the recognition of Lu Bu's strength by all the soldiers. There were no soldiers in that place, and if you want to pass, you just need to defeat Lu Bu, but can anyone defeat it? Looking at the black line on the edge of the sky, with Lu Bu's eyesight, he could clearly see everyone's hair. Naturally, he had found the target he needed, Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, and the guy who dared to shoot arrows at him yesterday. His Fangqian halberd needed to be stained only with the blood of the strong. As for the Red Rabbit, he had already been untied by Lu Bu and let him wander around. He was not afraid that someone would go back to snatch the Red Rabbit at all, not to mention the strength of the Red Rabbit that was no less than the general internal qi left the body. Even his own reputation was enough to make all those who paid attention to the Red Rabbit retreat. Of course, Lu Bu also knew that the Red Rabbit would not be too far away, just stroll within a radius of more than 10 miles, and when he needed it, with just a long howl, the Red Rabbit would draw a line of fire and step into the air, once again turning into his mount, following him to kill any enemy who dared to appear in front of him. It's coming. Lu Bu stood up, looked at the 18th Road Princes gathered together, and suddenly had a strange thought. If he rushed over and killed all that group of people now, would it be very interesting, or open the screen arrow in that direction? Probably the opposite side would be panicked. After thinking about it, Lu Bu took out his treasure eagle bow from the side, and pulled out 4 bows and arrows the size of short guns, opened the bow and arrows, and shot at the leaders of the 18th Road Princes gathered on the horizon. With a loud bang, Lu Bu didn't look in the direction of the shooting, and 4 bows and arrows were put on the bow, and after repeating it 4 times, Lu Bu put away the bow and arrow. After being locked by Lu Bu's bow and arrow from a distance, Zhao Yan took out his bow from the horse's back, but did not set up an arrow, but just pulled it in vain. With the appearance of the sonic boom cloud, Zhao Yan directly pulled the bow and arrow, and 4 silver blue arrows in succession shattered the bow and arrow that came towards them. Hidden blade. After Zhao Yan watched the 2 arrows collide and turn into flying ash, several golden red air arrows flew out of the debris, like streamers, and there was a hint of war on his calm face. Pulling the bowstring, the bee-like sound converged on the bowstring, let go, and the silver blue filaments went upwards, shrouding the path crossed by the golden red luster. It's rude to come and go. Chapter 29, The Tiger Prison is Closed. Or, when the fine silk thread like cow hair crossed the sky, everyone understood that the handsome man behind Liu Bei was a master, and they couldn't help but raise everyone's view of Liu Bei again. Did Zilong succeed? Zhong Fei said excitedly. Others didn't know what that beautiful filament meant. Zhong Fei and other masters had clearly felt the power of cutting gold and jade flowing in each filament. Zhao Yan shook his head and said, at most, it made him a little embarrassed when he was careless, and it was impossible to hurt him. As Zhao Yan expected, although Lu Bu did not expect someone to counterattack so quickly, His intuition as the world's #1 master allowed him to break Zhao Yun's attack at will when the danger came, but the aftermath of the collision of the two still knocked part of the parapet under the city gate tower into dust, while other places left round holes the size of needle eyes. Nice attack. Lu Bu looked in the direction of the 18th root princes, did not make another move, stood quietly in place, waiting for the arrival of the other party. Only this kind of master has the value of killing. After listening to Zhao Yun's words, Zhong Fei understood that his winning rate against Lu Bu was going to be lowered a little. At least he knew very well that if Zhao Yun's blow was all catharsis to his head, even if he didn't die, he would have to peel off his skin. But this time listening to Zhao Yun's words was actually when Lu Bu was careless, and he could only make him a little embarrassed. However, Zhong Fei didn't have much fear in his heart, but his chest was full of fighting spirit, and the snake spear in his hand was even tighter, and the fight with the strong could make him stronger, and the fate of a warrior was to die on the battlefield. More importantly, Zhong Fei knows that his battle will always be advancing and not retreating. If he retreats, he will lose his original state of mind and stop here forever, and even his physical fitness will become stronger, but his strength will decline. Holding the snake spear tightly, Zhong Fei exuded a vigorous fighting spirit. He was announcing that he was ready. He wanted to single out Lu Bu, knowing that he would go head-to-head if he was defeated. The defeat was not terrible. The terrible thing was that he didn't even have the courage to raise his hand when he saw the strength of the other party. The princes of the 18th root did not have the slightest concealment under the leadership of Yuan Shao, and when the soldiers came to the tiger prison, Dongzhi was sat on the tiger prison gate, and Lu Bu stood aside holding the Fang Qian halberd, and after the two sides scolded and fought, it was determined that they still needed to use their fists to determine their status. Fengxian, I'll leave it to you. Dongzhi waved his hand and signaled that Lu Bu, who had already been unable to hold back, could go to exterminate the group of rats on the opposite side. Lu Bu jumped directly from the city head of more than 10 zhong and nearly 20 feet, and then fell heavily. This kind of thing can be done by any warrior who refined Qi into a gang, but what happened next made everyone who understood the matter can't help but feel cold. The city jumped high, and Lu Bu almost smashed down from the air of more than 100 meters, and the speed was obviously deliberately accelerated, but what was shocking was that it fell at such a high speed, but did not let the earth shatter, but only made people feel a slight vibration, and the power of the fall perfectly spread to a radius of several miles, without causing any damage. Zhong Fei was shocked. Guan Yu half opened his eyes. Hua Zhong covered his forehead. Only Zhao Yun frowned slightly. They all understood one thing. Lu Bu was not only powerful, his use of every trace of power made people feel terrifying, and the subtleties were enough to show his control of power. With a long howl, a line of fire flew to Lu Bu's side in a bend, and the red rabbit on his body was like a burning flame and snorted. Lu Bu carried Fang Qian's halberd over the horse's back, looking at the hundreds of thousands of troops on the opposite side, and the huge momentum emanated and directly launched a provocation towards the army. Zhong Fei wanted to rush up angrily, but was pulled by Guan Yu, but looking at Guan Yu's cold and arrogant face, Chen Shi knew that Guan Yu was not in a good mood now, and then turned his head to look at Zhao Yun, and sure enough, Zhao Yun was also unhappy. Thinking about it, any master was ignored by Lu Bu like this, so he almost said that you should go up together. Everyone felt uncomfortable, people lived a face. And what Lu Bu was doing now was to slap his face, and it was around in public. The feeling of being slapped in the face was naturally very unpleasant, and without waiting for Yuan Shao to speak, Wang Quang asked loudly, "Who dares to fight?" I saw a person leaping out of the horse. Wang Quang looked at it. It was the famous General Fang Yu of Hanoi. Without waiting for Wang Quang to open his mouth to praise, a huge arc blade passed, and Fang Yu, who had not even been introduced by name, had evaporated from the world. The generals couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Lu Bu's ferocity could no longer be described in words, and he directly beat people into flying ashes, which was too murderous. Well, before Chen Shi could speak, he rushed up again. This time it was Zhongyang's General Mu Shun, who went up and took the first 3 knives, and then was cut into 2 pieces by the people and horses, and Lu Bu's horse did not move. I have been favored by Wenju for 10 years. Why not repay him with my death? The tall man behind Kong Rong looked at Lu Bu for a long time, finally licked his lips, and stepped forward to salute Kong Rong. Angua, be careful. Kong Rong nodded, but still decided to let Wu Angua fight. He was a capable general. Wuan Guo, which is said to be surnamed Wuan, is the name of the country. After all, the name of the 2 words at the end of the Han dynasty has been abolished, but the Maro version and the Jiajing version are both named Angua. Well, I prefer Kong Rong's name as the word. That is, the surname Wuan, the name Guo, the word Angua. But if the surname is Wuan, it is the descendants of Wuan Jun by Qi. This is a big source. You can watch and do it. Wu Angua nodded and rode out of the crowd slowly. The difference between him and the 2 fools before was that he knew that he was not Lu Bu's opponent, but as he said, he was deeply grateful to Kong Rong and had nothing to repay, so he was willing to fight with his life. For him his life belonged to Kong Rong. Carrying a sledgehammer of hundreds of pounds, Wu Angua silently killed Lu Bu. The horse was not fast, although it was a good horse, but the load was close to 1,000 pounds, so don't think too fast, but for him he didn't need too fast speed. With a dull thumping sound and the roar of "Eat my sledgehammer," The battle between Wu Angua and Lu Bu began, without that amazing speed, but the strength made Lu Bu feel numb in his hands, and it was rare to see this kind of power surpassing his guy. It doesn't take too many skills, it doesn't need too high speed. Wu Angua danced a sledgehammer and smashed Lu Bu's head. As for Lu Bu's counterattack, he relied on his hammer so huge that it could cover half of his body that it could be completely blocked. It was true that he couldn't see through Lu Bu's attack, but his sledgehammer that could be used as a shield was enough to block Lu Bu's attacks from all angles. Zichuan, now you understand why I hate guys with natural divine powers. Guan Yu gestured to Chen Shi with his eyes. I see, this Nima is too shameless. Chen Shi said speechlessly, purely relying on brute force to resist. No matter what direction he attacked, I smashed it with a big hammer. 20 rounds have passed, and Wu Angua is still wielding a sledgehammer firmly, and there is no sign of decline at all, and it seems that Lu Bu is really casting as an iron ore. Chapter 30 It's really not human. Or, the shouts and drums of both sides frantically stimulated the two people on the battlefield, and also stimulated all the soldiers, and the morale of both sides was constantly rising. Not good. Lu Bu looks at the arrow. Zhao Yan shouted, and the bow and arrow that had been prepared shot in the direction of Lu Bu. Lu Bu was upset by Wu Angua's sledgehammer waving over. He admitted that the guy opposite was really very strong, and he had the strength to leave the body, and the most important thing was that this guy was still very desperate, and he had a pretty good hammer technique. The warm-up ends here. Lu Bu roared, and the original stormy attack was stunned, and Fang Chan's halberd seemed to suddenly become 100 times heavier, and as if the air had become viscous, it seemed to hit Wu Angua's sledgehammer slowly and quickly. Wu Angua was instantly struck by lightning, almost unable to hold the sledgehammer, originally a flawless attack, because there was a loophole in this moment's pause. Lu Bu's halberd drew down along the loophole with an arc of light. No matter how hard Wu Angua tried, it was still a little bit worse. Bang! Just when Wu Angua was desperate, a silver-blue streamer abruptly knocked Lu Bu's halberd crooked, and Wu Angua, who would have been disgusted by the extended air blade, saved his life. Lu Bu glanced at the direction where the bow and arrow were shooting, and accepted the idea of continuing to kill Wu Angua. The other party had already said hello before attacking, although because the bow and arrow were too fast, he could not hear the other party's voice after hitting, but it was undeniable that the other party did not violate the rules of heads-up. Looking at Zhao Yan, whose face was as heavy as water, Chen Shi was a little puzzled. Why did Wu Angua suddenly fail? Wasn't he still pressing Lu Bu to fight before? The art of heavy swords, a technique that instantly allows small weapons to produce the power of heavy weapons. Zhao Yan said with a gloomy face, there is also the art of light swords, a technique that makes heavy weapons extremely light to use. General Zhong, do you understand what this means? Zhong Fei opened his mouth. He naturally understood that the opponent's attack would be troublesome if it was light or heavy, especially since the opponent could still control this change in weight. Zalone, just call me Ida. No matter how strong Lu Bu is, I have to face it. I am Zhong Ida from Yang. Zhong Fei's eyes flashed with fanatical fighting intent and roared. Without waiting for Guan Yu and Zhao Yan to stop him, he flew out of the formation with a spear on his prancing horse. Zhong Ida. Lu Bu held the Fang Qian painting halberd, the golden red luster slowly substance, and the golden red luster condensed a layer of godlike armor on his body. Lu Bu was ready to fight the world alone. No matter who the opponent was, no matter whether the opponent was a wheel battle or together, he was ready to kill the other party here. Similarly, the black arrogance on Zhong Fei's body was also wrapped around his body under Lu Bu's compression, condensing into a translucent armor. Take the move. Condensed to the peak of momentum, Zhong Fei did not have any hesitation, abandoned all flashy tricks, and stabbed the snake spear straight towards Lu Bu in a daze, simple and fast. Bang! Lu Bu waved his halberd and directly knocked Zhong Fei's snake spear crooked, and the power from a sound of gold and iron made him prepared, and the strength was very strong, but it was not much different from the previous guy. The most important thing was that the weapon was not heavy enough, and it was not big enough, and the speed was not fast enough. Zhong Fei danced the snake spear almost into a circle, as if a black dragon was wrapped around him, and the huge force pierced the air again and again with a strong explosion, and Lu Bu's counterattack was so timely every time that Zhong Fei had to defend back. The first 10 moves, relying on the courage of blood and courage, Zhong Fei suppressed Lu Bu's attack. The entire attack range of more than 100 meters was abruptly pressed by Zhong Fei on Lu Bu's body, a huge black dragon coiled under the tiger prison, frantically biting a golden red bead. However, as soon as the 10 moves passed, Lu Bu stabilized and began to fight back steadily. After 20 moves, the number of Zhong Fei's attacks began to decline. After 30 moves, Lu Bu had already suppressed Zhong Fei, and the number of Zhong Fei's counterattacks began to plummet. After 50 moves, Lu Bu's golden red fire had already suppressed the black dragon. The fighting spirit in Zhong Fei's eyes increased wildly, and the momentum on his body was also growing, but he still couldn't break through Lu Bu's blockade, and in the end, Lu Bu had suppressed the attack within a range of more than 10 meters, and it was calm out of this range, and it was stormy in this circle. Guan Yu's face became more and more solemn. Lu Bu's strength made him feel frightened. Zhong Fei rushed up first to give him a chance to understand Lu Bu, but it was obvious that Lu Bu did not exert all his strength. Chen Shi couldn't see who won and who lost, but he knew that Zhong Fei would never be able to beat Lu Bu, and he couldn't see the situation from Guan Yu's expression, so he turned his head to look at Zhao Yun and found that Zhao Yun, who had originally looked depressed, was obviously relieved, and Chen Shi knew that it was estimated that it was not beyond his estimate. Finally, the second master made a move. Still the blue light flashed, and the huge power mixed with a strong momentum slashed at Lu Bu fiercely, different from last night's fight. This time there was Zhong Fei to contain. Lu Bu had no chance to end Guan Yu's charging at all, and as a result, Guan Yu abruptly accumulated the momentum to the peak, and then slashed at Lu Bu fiercely with the third knife. Boom! Still so shocking, the powerful light blade not only cut Lu Bu out, but also left a knife mark nearly 100 meters long on the earth, extending all the way to the city wall of Hulao Pass, leaving a huge mark on it. Guan Yu gasped and looked at the smoke-filled tiger prison. Unlike slashing Hua Zhong, this time Guan Yu really did his best. He could guarantee that with this blow, the hill in front of him would also be split in half. The soldiers who were originally shouting also looked at the generals wearing green robes in shock after this blow, and the soldiers of the Tiger Prison Pass, who had been full of morale because of Lu Bu's amazing performance, instantly wilted like a dead father under this blow, and even Dong Zhuo, who was sitting in the Tiger Prison, was speechless because of this huge impact, and his trembling figure couldn't help but retreat. The smoke and dust dissipated. Lu Bu rode a red rabbit into the air. The original golden red arrogance had a touch of blood at this moment, and drops of blood slid down the tip of the halberd of Fang Qian's halberd. Ha ha ha! Lu Bu held a halberd in one hand and covered his face with the other, and crazy laughter spread all around the tiger prison. This guy can't be stupid. Chen Shi looked at Lu Bu and the red rabbit who were walking in the air, and said sideways to Zhao Yun. On the contrary, Lu Bu's momentum is constantly rising, and it has exceeded my expectations, and now the momentum he exudes, as well as the gushing inner energy, has completely exceeded my imagination. This is not human at all. At first, Zhao Yun could still maintain a gentle and elegant demeanor, but in the end, the whole person was a little crazy. P.S. Lu Bu was not seen as a human being in the entire Three Kingdoms, and every time he appeared, he was beaten by a group, and when he was beaten, he was basically a luxurious lineup, worthy of being treated as a superstar by the emperor.